The entire town held its breath as Ethan Carter and Maya Bennett stood frozen on stage, locked in a kiss that had stretched past 6 minutes. What began as a ridiculous dare at Willow Creek Spring Festival had transformed into something neither of them could stop, something that threatened to shatter the careful boundaries of their friendship forever. Around them, couples dropped out one by one, but Ethan and Maya remained, their hearts pounding, the world fading away. When they finally pulled apart, gasping for air, the crowd erupted in thunderous applause. But all Ethan could think about was the single tear rolling down Maya's cheek and the terrifying question neither of them was ready to answer. What happens now? If you want to see how this story unfolds, stay with me until the end. And please, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. The morning sun filtered through the workshop windows, casting long golden streaks across the sawdust-covered floor. Ethan Carter ran his hand along the smooth surface of the oak table he'd been building for the past week, checking for imperfections. His calloused fingers moved with practiced precision, feeling for any rough spots that might have escaped his notice. Dad, I can't find my blue notebook." Lily's voice echoed from inside the house, cutting through the peaceful quiet of the early morning. Ethan smiled to himself, setting down his sandpaper. 7 years old, and his daughter had already perfected the art of misplacing her school supplies at the worst possible moments. "Did you check under your bed?" he called back, wiping his hands on his worn jeans as he headed toward the house. "Yes." "Your backpack?" "Obviously." "The bathroom counter where you were doing your homework last night, even though I told you not to?" Silence. Then the sound of small feet racing across hardwood floors. Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. 3 years had passed since Sarah's death, and some days still felt impossibly heavy. But Lily, bright, chaotic, endlessly curious Lily, made every morning worth waking up for. She had her mother's wild auburn hair and stubborn streak, traits that both frustrated and delighted him in equal measure. "Found it!" Lily burst through the workshop door, waving the blue notebook triumphantly. Her hair was only half brushed, one sock was inside out, and she had somehow managed to get what looked like jam on her collar, despite not having eaten breakfast yet. "How do you do it?" Ethan asked, reaching out to fix her collar. "How do you create chaos in under 10 minutes?" "It's a gift," Lily said seriously, then grinned up at him. "Miss Maya says creative people are naturally messy. She says Einstein's desk was super messy." "Did she now?" Ethan felt the familiar warmth that always accompanied mentions of their neighbor. "And when exactly did Miss Maya tell you about Einstein's desk?" "Yesterday after school. She was helping me with my science project, remember? You were finishing that chair for Mrs. Henderson." "Right. The chair." Ethan had been so focused on getting the spindles perfectly aligned that he'd barely noticed Maya arriving with fresh-baked bread and staying to help Lily construct a model of the solar system. It had become such a regular occurrence, Maya appearing at just the right moment, filling gaps in their life that Ethan hadn't even realized were there. "Speaking of Miss Maya," Lily continued, her voice taking on that particular tone that always made Ethan suspicious. "She invited us for dinner tonight. She's making lasagna." "Lily, we can't keep accepting her invitations. She's already done so much. She wants us to come. She told me yesterday. She said, 'Lily, tell your dad I'm making extra lasagna, and if you two don't come over, I'll have to eat it all myself, and then I won't fit through my door.'" Lily did an exaggerated impression of Maya's gentle laugh. "Those were her exact words, Dad. Exact words." Ethan sighed, knowing he was already defeated. The truth was, he looked forward to those dinners more than he wanted to admit. Maya's small house next door had become a second home over the past 2 years. Warm, filled with books and the smell of whatever she was baking, a place where Lily could sprawl on the floor with art supplies while the adults talked over coffee. "Fine," he said, "but you're bringing her those flowers from the garden as a thank you, the yellow ones she likes." Lily's face lit up. "The daffodils, can I pick them now?" "After school." "And Lily?" He caught her arm gently as she started to dash off. "Brush the other side of your hair. You look like you stuck your finger in an electrical socket." She giggled and raced back toward the house, leaving Ethan alone in his workshop once more. He returned to his table, but his mind had wandered from the grain of the wood to the puzzle of Maya Bennett. She'd moved to Willow Creek about 6 months after Sarah's death, renting the small cottage next door that had sat empty for years. Ethan barely remembered meeting her. Those months were a blur of grief and learning to navigate single parenthood while maintaining his furniture business. But Maya had simply appeared in their lives like a gentle rain, asking for nothing, offering everything. At first, it was small things. She'd wave from her garden, leave a loaf of banana bread on their porch, ask if Lily wanted to borrow a book from her personal library. Gradually, the boundaries between their homes had softened. Maya would watch Lily for an hour when Ethan had a client meeting. Ethan would help Maya move her heavy bookcases or fix her perpetually leaking kitchen faucet. They fell into an easy rhythm, the kind of comfortable friendship that felt like it had existed forever. Lily, of course, had adopted Maya immediately and completely. She called her Miss Maya, with the kind of reverence usually reserved for fairy godmothers and superhero characters. She brought Maya her crayon drawings, asked her opinion on everything from what shoes to wear to whether unicorns could be real if we just believed hard enough, and had recently started asking why Maya didn't just move in with them since she's here all the time anyway, Dad. Ethan had deflected that conversation quickly, because the truth was complicated. Maya was beautiful in a way that snuck up on you. Not the dramatic beauty that turned heads on the street, but something quieter and more devastating. She had warm brown eyes that crinkled when she laughed, dark hair she usually wore pulled back in a messy bun, and a smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the world worth smiling at. She wore vintage dresses and hand-knit cardigans, and always smelled faintly of vanilla and old books. Ethan had noticed. Of course he'd noticed. But he'd also very deliberately never let those observations become anything more. Maya was safe harbor in a storm, a trusted friend, someone who had helped him remember how to laugh again. He couldn't risk that. Lily couldn't lose that. So whatever small flutter of feeling tried to surface when Maya's hand brushed his while reaching for the same coffee mug, or when she looked at him across the dinner table with those warm eyes, he pushed it down, locked it away, and reminded himself of all the reasons why staying friends was the only option. The morning passed quickly. Ethan finished the table, started sanding a rocking chair commission, and barely noticed the time until Lily came flying into the workshop at 3:30, backpack bouncing wildly. "School's out. Can we pick the flowers now, please?" They spent the next 20 minutes in the garden, Lily carefully selecting the best daffodils while providing running commentary on everything that had happened at school. Her best friend Emma had lost a tooth. They'd learned about butterflies in science. The boy who sat behind her, Tommy Henderson, had pulled her hair, which meant he probably liked her, which was super gross, Dad, because boys are weird. Ethan listened, asked appropriate questions, and tried not to think about how Maya would react to the flowers. She always acted like any small gesture was the most thoughtful thing anyone had ever done. At 6 o'clock, they walked next door, Lily clutching her bouquet of daffodils. Maya's cottage was smaller than theirs, but infinitely cozier, with flower boxes in every window and a bright red door that Lily insisted looked like something from a storybook. Maya opened the door before they could knock, as if she'd been watching for them. She wore a blue dress with tiny white flowers, and her hair down for once, falling in soft waves past her shoulders. "You came!" She beamed at them, then gasped when she saw the flowers. "Oh, Lily, these are gorgeous." Dad said they're your favorites," Lily announced proudly. "We picked the biggest ones." "They're perfect. Come in, come in. Dinner's almost ready." The cottage smelled incredible. Tomato sauce, garlic, fresh bread. Maya's kitchen was cheerful chaos, with cookbooks stacked on every surface and herbs growing in mismatched pots along the windowsill. She'd set the small dining table with her vintage china and actual cloth napkins, which Ethan knew she only did for special occasions. "You didn't have to go to so much trouble," he said, feeling suddenly awkward. This felt different than their usual casual dinners. More intentional somehow. Maya waved away his concern. "Please, I love cooking for people actually appreciate it. When I cook for just me, I eat cereal over the sink like a college student." She turned to Lily. "How was school, sweetheart?" While Lily launched into another detailed recap of her day, Ethan helped Maya bring food to the table. Their hands bumped while reaching for the salad bowl, and Maya laughed softly, a sound that seemed to settle something restless in his chest. Dinner was easy and warm, full of the comfortable conversation they'd developed over countless shared meals. Maya told them about the new children's section she was organizing at the library. Lily demonstrated her newfound knowledge of butterfly metamorphosis using her garlic bread as props. Ethan found himself relaxing, remembering why he loved these evenings. The simple pleasure of not being alone, of having another adult to share the small moments of raising a child. After dinner, Lily sprawled on Maya's living room floor with a new book, while the adults cleaned up. They worked in companionable silence, Maya washing while Ethan dried, until she spoke quietly. "The Spring Festival is this weekend." "I heard. Lily's been talking about it nonstop." Maya smiled, her hands stilling in the soapy water. "She asked me if we'd all go together. I said I'd have to check with you first." "Of course we can go together. We always do." It was true. The Spring Festival had become their tradition over the past 2 years. They'd walk through the craft booths, Lily would demand cotton candy and carnival games, and they'd watch the sunset from the hill overlooking the fairgrounds. To anyone watching, they probably looked like a family. The thought had occurred to Ethan before, but he'd always pushed it away. "There's something else," Maya said, not looking at him. "They're doing that ridiculous kissing contest again, the one where couples see who can kiss the longest." Ethan groaned. "That thing is still happening? I thought they canceled it after the mayor's wife nearly fainted from holding her breath." "Apparently it's too popular. People come from neighboring towns just to watch." Maya finally looked at him, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Lily thinks we should enter." "What?" The dish towel slipped from Ethan's hands. "She said that?" "Yep. Told me very seriously that she thinks we'd win because you two already act like you're married anyway, so kissing should be easy." Maya's cheeks had gone slightly pink. "I told her that's not how it works, but she seemed pretty convinced." Ethan didn't know what to say. His heart was doing something complicated and uncomfortable in his chest. Kids have wild imaginations. "They do," Maya agreed softly. Something in her tone made him look at her more closely, but she'd already turned back to the dishes, her expression unreadable. They finished cleaning in silence, and shortly after, Ethan gathered a sleepy Lily and headed home. As they walked across the yard between the two houses, Lily looked up at him with those too perceptive 7-year-old eyes. "Do you like Miss Maya, Dad?" "Of course I like her, sweetheart. She's our friend." "No, I mean, do you like her? The way grown-ups like each other?" Ethan's step faltered. "Why are you asking that?" Lily shrugged, but her voice was serious. "Because she makes you smile. Really smile. Not just the pretend smile you do for other people. And you make her happy too. I can tell." "It's complicated, Lily." "Why?" "Because..." He struggled for words that would make sense to a 7-year-old. "Because Miss Maya is very special to both of us. If anything changed between her and me and it didn't work out, we might lose her friendship. And that would be really sad." Lily thought about this as they climbed the porch steps. "But what if it did work out? Then we could all be together all the time, like a real family." "We are a real family," Ethan said gently, unlocking the door. "You and me. We're a family." "I know." Lily yawned widely. "But families can get bigger, can't they? Mom would want you to be happy, Dad, and Miss Maya makes you happy." The casual mention of Sarah hit Ethan like it always did, a mixture of grief and guilt and love so tangled he couldn't separate them. Lily rarely talked about her mother these days, and when she did, it was always with the matter-of-fact acceptance that only children seemed capable of. He got Lily ready for bed, read her 2 chapters of her current favorite book, and tucked her in with her worn stuffed rabbit. As he was leaving, her sleepy voice stopped him. "Just think about it, okay? The contest. It might be fun." Ethan didn't answer, just kissed her forehead and turned out the light. But lying in his own bed an hour later, he couldn't stop thinking about it. The idea of kissing Maya, really kissing her, not just a quick peck on the cheek at New Year's or a friendly hug goodbye, sent his mind spinning in dangerous directions. He'd been so careful for so long. Careful not to notice how her laugh made his whole day brighter. Careful not to think about how perfectly her hand fit in his when they walked through town. Careful not to imagine what it might be like to wake up next to her, to call her something more than a friend, to build a life that included more than just neighborly dinners. Because wanting those things felt like a betrayal. Of Sarah's memory, of the promise he'd made to himself after she died, that he'd focus entirely on being the father Lily deserved. And most dangerously, it risked the one good thing he'd managed to build in his grief. Maya's steady, uncomplicated presence in their lives. But Lily's words echoed in his head. Mom would want you to be happy. Would she? Sarah had been vibrant and loud and full of life. She'd never done anything halfway, including love. In the hospital, weak and fading, she'd made him promise only one thing. Don't let grief make you small, Ethan. Promise me you'll still live. He'd promised. But he wasn't sure he'd kept that promise. Sleep didn't come easily, and when it did, Ethan dreamed of warm brown eyes and a smile that felt like coming home. The spring festival arrived with perfect weather, bright sunshine, a gentle breeze, and the kind of spring warmth that made everyone in Willow Creek stream toward the fairgrounds in cheerful crowds. Ethan, Maya, and Lily arrived just after noon, when the festival was in full swing. Lily immediately dragged them toward the game booths, her hand clasped firmly in Maya's. Ethan followed behind, carrying the small backpack with water bottles and sunscreen that Maya had insisted they bring. Ring toss first, Lily announced. I'm going to win Miss Maya a prize. The afternoon unfolded in a blur of activity. Lily did indeed win a prize at ring toss, a small stuffed bear that she immediately gave to Maya with great ceremony. They ate funnel cakes dusted with powdered sugar, rode the Ferris wheel twice, Lily's insistence, and browsed through booths selling everything from handmade soap to garden sculptures. To Ethan's relief, no one mentioned the kissing contest, until they ran into Carol Henderson and her daughter Emma at the craft beer garden, where the adults had stopped for a drink while the girls got lemonade. Maya! Ethan! Carol waved them over enthusiastically. She was a force of nature in Willow Creek, head of the PTA, organizer of every town event, and incapable of keeping any information to herself. Are you two entering the contest? What contest? Maya asked innocently, though her eyes flickered to Ethan with what looked like amusement. The kissing contest. It's in an hour. I already signed up 6 couples, but we could use more. Carol leaned in conspiratorially. Between you and me, I think you two would win easily. You have that natural chemistry, you know. We're not a couple, Ethan said quickly. Too quickly. Carol's eyebrows rose with interest. Oh, come on. Everyone in town knows you're basically together. Why not make it official? Because we're friends, Maya said gently but firmly. Good friends, that's all. Something about the way she said it, with just a hint of wistfulness, made Ethan's chest tight. Carol looked between them skeptically. Well, if you change your minds, registration closes in 45 minutes. She winked. I think it would be good for you both. After she left, an awkward silence settled over them. Lily and Emma had run off to the face-painting booth, leaving Ethan and Maya alone with their beer and carefully maintained boundaries. Sorry about that, Maya said finally. Carol means well, but she has no filter. It's fine. People have thought we're together before. Does it bother you that they think that? Ethan considered the question carefully. No? Does it bother you? No. Maya smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Though I suppose it might make it harder when one of us actually starts dating someone. See, the thought of Maya dating someone, some faceless man who would take her to dinner, make her laugh, maybe eventually propose, landed like a punch to Ethan's gut. When had that started bothering him? I hadn't thought about that, he admitted. Neither had I, really, but Lily's been asking questions lately, hasn't she? About us. She has some ideas about how the world should work. Maya laughed softly. She's perceptive. Kids usually are. She turned to look at him fully, her expression serious. Ethan, can I ask you something? Of course. If things were different, if we'd met at a different time in a different way, do you think... She trailed off, shaking her head. Never mind. That's not fair to ask. But Ethan couldn't let it go. Do I think what? Maya bit her lip, clearly debating whether to continue. Finally, she said quietly, Do you think there could have been something between us? If the circumstances were different? The question hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility. Ethan knew he should deflect, make a joke, change the subject. That's what he'd been doing for 2 years. Instead, he heard himself say, Yes, I think there could have been. Maya's breath caught. Oh, but the circumstances aren't different. Ethan continued, even though every word felt like pulling teeth. I have Lily to think about. She's already lost her mother. She can't lose you too if things didn't work out between us. And I can't— His voice cracked slightly. I can't lose you either, Maya. Your friendship means everything to me. To both of us. I know. Maya's eyes were bright with unshed tears. I know, and I'm not asking you to risk that. I just needed to know if I was imagining things. If these feelings were all one-sided. They're not, Ethan said softly. They're not one-sided. They stared at each other, the noise of the festival fading into background static. Ethan became acutely aware of how close they were standing, how easy it would be to close the distance, to finally find out if her lips were as soft as they looked. Dad! Miss Maya! Come quick! Lily's voice shattered the moment. They both turned to see her running toward them, face painted like a butterfly, Emma close behind. The kissing contest is starting. They're calling for couples. Lily, we talked about this, Ethan started, but his daughter was already tugging on both their hands. Please! Everyone's saying you should do it. Mrs. Henderson says you'd win for sure. And the prize is a gift certificate to that fancy restaurant in Riverside. You could go on a real date. Sweetheart, are you chicken? Lily looked up at him with a challenge in her eyes that reminded him so much of Sarah it hurt. Mom always said you never back down from a dare. Low blow. Lily knew it too, from the triumphant gleam in her eyes. Ethan looked at Maya helplessly. She was biting back a smile, her earlier seriousness replaced with something that looked almost like hope. It's just a silly contest, she said. It doesn't have to mean anything. But they both knew that was a lie. Fine, Ethan heard himself say. But when this is a disaster, I'm blaming both of you. Lily cheered and grabbed Emma's hand, the two girls racing toward the main stage where a crowd was already gathering. Maya and Ethan followed more slowly, neither quite able to look at the other. The stage had been set up in the center of the fairgrounds, decorated with streamers and a banner that read, 14th Annual Longest Kiss Contest, in enthusiastic letters. An announcer, Derek Mills, who owned the hardware store, stood at a microphone, calling for participants. We need at least 8 couples, folks. Don't be shy. It's all in good fun. Several couples were already on stage, including Carol and her husband Tom, the mayor and his wife, and a pair of teenagers who couldn't have been more than 16 and looked absolutely terrified. There they are! Carol spotted them in the crowd and started clapping. Soon others joined in, and before Ethan quite knew what was happening, he and Maya were being ushered onto the stage by an enthusiastic Derek. Ethan Carter and Maya Bennett, everyone, Derek announced. About time these two made it official. The crowd laughed and cheered. Ethan felt his face burning. Next to him, Maya had gone bright red, but was smiling gamely. This is insane, he muttered to her. Completely, she agreed. Want to back out? He looked down at her, at the nervous excitement in her eyes, at the way she was unconsciously leaning closer to him. Thought about Lily in the crowd, beaming with pride and hope. Thought about the conversation they'd just had, the feelings they'd finally admitted. No, he said. Let's do this. Derek explained the rules, which were simple. Couples would kiss for as long as they could. No breaks, no coming up for air. Last couple still kissing one. Hands must remain visible at all times, folks. This is a family event. Derek winked at the crowd, getting another laugh. The couples arranged themselves on stage. Ethan's heart was pounding so hard he was sure everyone could hear it. Maya stepped closer, her hands trembling slightly, as she placed them on his shoulders. You okay? He asked quietly. Terrified, she admitted. You? Same. If this ruins everything, it won't, Ethan said with more confidence than he felt. His hands found her waist, and even through the fabric of her dress, he could feel warmth. Ready? No, but let's do it anyway. Derek raised his hand. On my count. 3, 2, 1, kiss. And they did. The moment their lips touched, everything else disappeared. The cheering crowd, the other couples, Lily's excited squeals, all of it faded into nothing. There was only Maya, soft and warm and real against him, her hands sliding from his shoulders to cup his face gently. It started careful, almost tentative, just lips pressed together, both of them trying to figure out how this worked between them. But then something shifted. Maya's fingers threaded into his hair, and Ethan pulled her closer, deepening the kiss in a way that felt both natural and earth-shattering. He'd forgotten what this felt like. Not just kissing, but kissing someone who mattered. Someone who knew all his broken pieces and hadn't run. Someone who tasted like strawberry lemonade and felt like home. Maya made a small sound against his mouth, and Ethan responded instinctively, his hands tightening on her waist. Dimly, he was aware that they were supposed to be holding still, just maintaining the kiss. But his body had other ideas, swaying slightly into her, and Maya swayed back, and suddenly they were kissing like they'd done this 1,000 times before. Time lost all meaning. Ethan had no idea if they'd been kissing for 30 seconds or 30 minutes. All he knew was Maya's lips moving against his, her heartbeat racing under his palm, where his hand had somehow migrated to her ribs, the way she fit against him like she'd been designed exactly for this purpose. Somewhere in the distance, Derek was announcing something. "And there goes couple number 3. We're down to 6. They kept kissing. Ethan's lungs were starting to burn, demanding air, but he ignored them. Maya's fingers tightened in his hair, and he realized she was struggling too. They should stop. This was crazy. They'd made their point, but neither of them pulled away. "Couple number 5 is out. Looking good, everyone else." The crowd was going wild now, cheering and shouting encouragement. Ethan became peripherally aware that they'd become a focal point, that people were specifically cheering for them. It should have made him self-conscious. Instead, it made him want to prove them right. Maya's knee buckled slightly, and Ethan caught her, one arm wrapping around her back to hold her steady. She melted into him, and the kiss shifted again, becoming less about competition and more about something neither of them had the courage to name. This wasn't just a kiss anymore. This was a confession. 6 minutes, Derek shouted. "We've never had a couple last 6 minutes before, and we're down to just 2 couples. The mayor and Mrs. Henderson are still going, and so are our local favorites, Ethan and Maya." 6 minutes. They'd been kissing for 6 minutes. Ethan's vision was starting to spot at the edges from lack of oxygen. Maya was trembling in his arms, whether from effort or emotion he couldn't tell. This was ridiculous. They needed to breathe. They needed to stop. But the thought of pulling away, of ending this moment and facing what came after, that was more terrifying than suffocation. Then Maya's hand moved from his hair to his cheek, her thumb brushing against his skin in a gesture so tender it almost broke him. And in that touch, he felt everything she couldn't say. "I'm scared. I don't want this to end. What are we doing?" He responded by pulling her impossibly closer, trying to pour everything he felt into this kiss. "I know. Me too. I don't know, but we'll figure it out." And the mayor's out. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our winners, Ethan Carter and Maya Bennett at 6 minutes and 43 seconds, a new record. The crowd's roar finally penetrated the bubble they'd created. Slowly, reluctantly, they pulled apart. Maya's eyes fluttered open, bright with unshed tears. Her lips were swollen, her hair mussed from his fingers. She'd never looked more beautiful. "We won," she whispered. "We won," Ethan echoed, though he wasn't entirely sure what they'd won or lost. Derek was trying to present them with their prize, an envelope containing the restaurant gift certificate. But Ethan couldn't take his eyes off Maya. She was looking back at him with an expression he'd never seen before, vulnerable and hopeful and terrified all at once. "Maya! Dad!" Lily crashed into both of them, wrapping her arms around their legs. "You won! I knew you would. That was the longest kiss ever. Does this mean you're boyfriend and girlfriend now?" The question hung in the air as the crowd quieted, suddenly very interested in the answer. Ethan looked down at his daughter, then at Maya, then at the hundreds of people waiting to hear what he'd say, and he realized he had absolutely no idea how to answer. The question seemed to echo across the entire fairground, amplified by the sudden silence of hundreds of waiting faces. Ethan felt Maya stiffen beside him, her hand still resting on his arm from where they'd steadied each other after the kiss. Lily looked up at them both with absolute certainty in her eyes, as if the answer was the most obvious thing in the world. "Sweetheart," Ethan started, his voice rough. He cleared his throat, trying to find words that wouldn't disappoint his daughter or humiliate Maya in front of the entire town. "That's not something we can answer right now." "Why not?" Lily's face scrunched up in genuine confusion. "You just kissed for like 1,000,000 years. Emma's mom says when people kiss like that, it means they love each other. A ripple of laughter moved through the crowd, but it wasn't unkind. If anything, people seemed charmed by Lily's directness. Ethan wanted the ground to open up and swallow him whole. Maya knelt down to Lily's level, her cheeks still flushed, but her voice gentle. The contest was just for fun, honey. Your dad and I are still the same friends we were this morning. But you don't kiss your friends like that, Lily insisted, her voice rising with frustration. I kiss Emma on the cheek sometimes, but that was different. That was a grown-up kiss, a real kiss. Lily, that's enough. Ethan's tone came out sharper than he intended, and he immediately regretted it when he saw his daughter's eyes fill with tears. But he couldn't have this conversation here, now, with what felt like the entire population of Willow Creek watching them like they were the evening's entertainment. Derek, sensing the awkwardness, stepped in with forced cheerfulness. Well, folks, let's give our winners another round of applause, and don't forget to visit the craft beer garden before it closes. He pressed the envelope with the restaurant certificate into Ethan's hand and practically pushed them off the stage. The crowd began to disperse, though Ethan could feel eyes following them as they made their way through the fairground. Lily walked between them, uncharacteristically quiet, her earlier joy completely deflated. Emma had run off to find her parents, leaving the three of them alone in the awkward aftermath. I want to go home, Lily said quietly. We were going to watch the sunset from the hill, Maya reminded her gently, and there's still the pie-eating contest and the bluegrass band. I don't care about any of that. Lily's voice was thick with tears she was trying not to shed. I just want to go home. Ethan and Maya exchanged helpless looks over her head. The day that had started with such promise had somehow twisted into this mess, and Ethan had no idea how to fix it. Okay, he said softly. Let's go home. They walked back to their cars in silence. Maya had driven separately, and as they reached the parking lot, she touched Ethan's arm hesitantly. Should I come over? To talk? Yes, his heart said. No, his head argued. I think Lily and I need some time alone right now, he said, hating how her face fell slightly. But tomorrow, maybe we can talk tomorrow? Of course. Maya's smile was strained. She bent down to hug Lily, who accepted the embrace but didn't return it with her usual enthusiasm. Sweet dreams, butterfly girl. Lily didn't respond, already climbing into Ethan's truck. Maya straightened, and for a moment she and Ethan just looked at each other, the kiss still hanging between them like a bridge neither knew how to cross. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Don't be. We both knew what we were getting into. But her eyes told a different story. They were hurt and confused and sad. I'll see you tomorrow. The drive home took only 10 minutes, but it felt like hours. Lily stared out the window, her small face set in an expression of disappointed determination that reminded Ethan painfully of Sarah. His late wife had worn that exact look when she'd made up her mind about something and wouldn't be swayed. I'm not mad at you, Lilybug, he said as they pulled into their driveway. I just wasn't ready to have that conversation in front of everyone. You're never ready, Lily said, still not looking at him. You and Miss Maya like each other. Everyone can see it except you two, and you won't do anything about it because you're scared. The accuracy of her observation stole his breath. How do you know about being scared? Because I'm scared too. Lily finally turned to face him, and the tears she'd been holding back spilled over. I'm scared that if you don't try to be with Miss Maya, she'll get tired of waiting and find someone else. And then we'll lose her. Or I'm scared that you will try and it won't work and we'll lose her anyway. But at least if you try, there's a chance it could work. If you don't try, we lose her no matter what. Ethan unbuckled his seatbelt and pulled his daughter into his arms, letting her cry against his shoulder. When had she gotten so wise? When had his little girl started understanding the complicated mathematics of adult relationships? When did you figure all this out? He asked softly. I think about it a lot, Lily sniffled. At night, when I'm supposed to be sleeping, I think about what it would be like if Miss Maya was here all the time, if she lived with us, if I could call her something more than Miss Maya. She pulled back to look at him, her face wet with tears. Would it be okay if I wanted that, Dad? Would Mom be mad? Oh, sweetheart. Ethan felt his own eyes burning. Mom would never be mad at you for wanting to be happy, for wanting more people to love you. What about you? Would you be mad at Mom if you loved someone else? The question hit him like a physical blow. It was the fear he'd been carrying for 3 years, the guilt that shadowed every moment of happiness he'd felt since Sarah's death. Would loving someone else diminish what he'd had with his wife? Would it be a betrayal of the promises they'd made? "I don't know," he admitted, "but I don't think your mom would want me to be alone forever. She loved me too much for that." "Then why won't you let yourself be happy with Miss Maya?" Because happiness felt dangerous. Because losing Sarah had broken something in him that still hadn't fully healed. Because the thought of opening himself up to that kind of love again, that kind of vulnerability, terrified him more than anything else in the world. But he couldn't say any of that to his 7-year-old daughter. "It's complicated, Bug. Grown-up feelings are messy." "Feelings are always messy," Lily said with the kind of wisdom that only children possessed. "But Miss Maya makes them less messy. When she's around, everything feels easier, don't you think?" She did. That was the terrifying truth. Maya made everything easier. The loneliness, the exhaustion of single parenthood, the weight of grief that still pressed on him in quiet moments. Her presence in their lives had become so essential that Ethan couldn't remember what it felt like before she moved in next door. They went inside, and Ethan made Lily her favorite comfort food, grilled cheese and tomato soup. She ate mechanically, still lost in thought, and when he tucked her into bed an hour later, she grabbed his hand before he could leave. "That kiss today," she said quietly. "It looked real, Dad. Like you meant it." "I did mean it," Ethan admitted. "That's what makes it so complicated." "I think you're making it more complicated than it needs to be." Lily yawned, her eyes already drifting closed. "Sometimes the answer is simple. You just have to be brave enough to say it." Long after Lily had fallen asleep, Ethan sat on the porch, a beer in his hand that he wasn't really drinking. The lights were on in Maya's cottage next door, and he could see her shadow moving past the windows. What was she thinking right now? Was she reliving the kiss the way he was? Or was she regretting the whole thing, wishing they'd never stepped onto that stage? His phone buzzed. A text from Maya. "Are you okay?" He stared at the message for a long moment before typing back. "Define okay." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally. "Fair point. Is Lily okay? She's upset. Thinks we're both idiots for not seeing what's right in front of us. She's not wrong." Ethan's heart skipped. He typed and deleted 3 different responses before settling on, "Can we talk? In person? Now? If you're up for it. Porch." 5 minutes later, Maya emerged from her cottage wearing sweatpants and an oversized cardigan, her hair loose around her shoulders. She crossed the yard between their houses and climbed the steps to his porch, settling into the chair next to his. For a moment, they just sat in comfortable silence, listening to the crickets and the distant sound of cars on the highway. "That was quite a kiss," Maya said finally, a hint of humor in her voice. "It was." Ethan couldn't help but smile. 6 minutes and 43 seconds, apparently. "I wasn't counting." "Neither was I." He turned to look at her. "I was too busy trying to figure out when I'd forgotten how to breathe." Maya laughed softly. "I thought I was going to pass out, but I couldn't stop. Didn't want to stop." "Why not?" She was quiet for a long moment, her fingers playing with the fringe of her cardigan. "Because I've been wanting to kiss you like that for about 2 years now, and once I started, I couldn't bear for it to end." The confession hung in the air between them. Ethan felt his chest tighten with something that felt dangerously like hope. 2 years? He asked quietly. "Give or take. It's hard to pinpoint exactly when I fell for you." Maya's voice was steady, but her hands were trembling. "Maybe it was the first time you fixed my kitchen sink and wouldn't let me pay you. Or when you helped Lily build that birdhouse, and she was so proud she cried. Or maybe it was just the accumulation of 1,000 small moments where you were kind and funny and genuine. When did it happen for you?" Ethan had to think about it. When had his feelings for Maya shifted from friendship to something more? "Remember last winter when we got that ice storm? When the power went out for 3 days? Yeah, you came over with flashlights and batteries and every board game you owned. We spent that whole weekend playing Monopoly and Sorry by candlelight while Lily made shadow puppets on the walls." He smiled at the memory. "And I remember thinking that even though we had no heat and no electricity, I'd never felt warmer. That's when I knew." "That was almost 6 months ago," Maya said softly. "I know." Why didn't you say anything? Same reason you didn't, I imagine. Too scared of ruining what we had. Too scared of what it would mean for Lily if things didn't work out. He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. And honestly, I felt guilty, like having feelings for you was somehow being unfaithful to Sarah's memory. Maya reached over and took his hand, her fingers warm against his. Can I tell you something that might help? Please. About 6 months after I moved here, I had coffee with Carol Henderson. This was before you and I had gotten close, back when I was just the new librarian in town. She told me all about you and Sarah, how much you'd loved each other, how devastated you were when she died. And I remember thinking that any woman who could inspire that kind of love must have been extraordinary. Maya squeezed his hand, but she also told me something Sarah said to her near the end. She said, I need you to make sure Ethan doesn't let grief turn him into a ghost. He deserves to love again. He deserves to be happy. Ethan felt tears prick at his eyes. Carol never told me that. She was waiting for the right time, and when she saw us together today, she pulled me aside while you were getting Lily lemonade. She said Sarah would have loved me for loving you both, that she'd want you to move forward, not stay frozen in the past. Do you really believe that? Ethan's voice came out rough. I do. Because love isn't a finite resource, Ethan. Loving someone new doesn't diminish what you had with Sarah. It just means your heart is big enough for more than one chapter. They sat in silence, hands linked, while Ethan processed everything. The kiss, Lily's tears, Maya's confession, the permission he hadn't realized he'd been waiting for from a woman who'd been gone for 3 years. I'm terrified, he admitted finally. So am I. What if we try this and it doesn't work? What if we ruin everything? Maya turned to face him fully, and in the porch light, her eyes were bright with unshed tears. What if we try this and it does work? What if we're throwing away something incredible because we're too scared to take the leap? Lily asked me tonight if I'd be brave enough to say the answer, Ethan said. She said sometimes the answer is simple. Is it? Simple, I mean. Ethan thought about it. Thought about the past 2 years of dinners and laughter and quiet companionship. Thought about the way Lily's face lit up whenever Maya was around. Thought about that kiss, and how for 6 minutes and 43 seconds, everything else had fallen away and left only the truth. I think it might be, he said slowly. I think the complicated part is just the fear talking. The simple part is that I care about you, Maya, more than I've let myself admit. And I think we owe it to ourselves and to Lily to see if this thing between us is real. Maya's breath caught. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying let's try. Let's actually try to be together, not just neighbors who are too scared to admit they want more. He brought her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles gently. I'm saying I want to take you on a real date. I want to hold your hand in public without pretending it doesn't mean anything. I want to kiss you again, and not because some announcer told us to, but because I want to. Ethan, but I need you to understand something. His voice grew serious. Lily comes first. She always comes first. If at any point this starts to hurt her, if she shows any signs that she's not okay with us being together, we have to be able to step back and reassess. Can you live with that? Maya smiled through her tears. Ethan, I fell in love with both of you. I would never ask you to choose between me and your daughter. She's part of why I love you, because you're an amazing father who puts her needs above everything else. You love me? The words came out barely above a whisper. I do. I have for a while now. She laughed shakily. Is that too much? Am I moving too fast? Instead of answering with words, Ethan leaned forward and kissed her. This kiss was different from the one on stage, softer, more tentative, but somehow more intimate. There was no crowd watching, no contest to win. Just the two of them on a quiet porch, finally admitting what they'd been feeling for so long. When they pulled apart, Maya was smiling. So, what now? Now I use that restaurant gift certificate we won and take you on the date I should have asked you on months ago. What about Lily? Should we tell her? Tomorrow morning. Together. We'll explain that we're going to try being more than friends, but we're going to take it slow. Make sure she's okay with everything. Maya nodded. And if she's not okay with it, then we figure it out together. Ethan stood, pulling Maya to her feet and into his arms. But something tells me she's going to be insufferably smug about being right. They stood there for a long moment, wrapped in each other's arms, both marveling at how natural it felt. Finally, Maya pulled back reluctantly. I should go. It's late, and we both have work tomorrow. Stay, Ethan said impulsively. Just for a while longer, we can sit and talk. Or just sit. I'm not ready for you to leave yet. So they settled back into the porch chairs, this time sitting close enough that their shoulders touched. They talked about everything and nothing, Maya's plans for the library's summer reading program, Ethan's latest furniture commission, the trip to the state fair they'd been planning with Lily for next month. Normal conversation, except now their fingers were interlaced, and every so often one of them would lean over and steal a soft kiss. It was nearly midnight when Maya finally stood to leave. Ethan walked her to her door, feeling like a teenager on a first date, nervous and excited and terrified all at once. Thank you, Maya said as they reached her porch, for being brave enough to try. Thank you for waiting for me to catch up to what everyone else apparently already knew. She laughed and kissed him one more time, a sweet goodnight kiss that somehow felt more significant than all the others. See you tomorrow? Bright and early, pancakes at my place. The three of us need to have a family meeting. The word family made Maya's eyes go soft. I'll bring the strawberries. Ethan waited until she was safely inside before heading back to his own house. As he got ready for bed, he caught himself smiling, really smiling, not the polite expression he'd been wearing for the past 3 years, but genuine happiness that seemed to radiate from somewhere deep in his chest. He checked on Lily before turning in. She was sprawled across her bed, one arm flung over her stuffed rabbit, her face peaceful in sleep. Looking at her, Ethan felt a surge of love so strong it almost hurt. She deserved this. A full family, people who loved her, a home filled with laughter instead of quiet grief. Your mom would like Maya, he whispered to his sleeping daughter. I think they would have been friends. In his own bed, Ethan lay awake for a long time, replaying the day. The kiss, the conversation, the decision to finally stop running from what he felt. For the first time since Sarah's death, the future didn't feel like something to be endured. It felt like something to look forward to. The next morning arrived with bright sunshine streaming through the windows. Ethan woke earlier than usual, nervous energy propelling him out of bed. He started on pancakes, making Lily's favorite blueberry ones, and setting the table with care. At 8 o'clock sharp, there was a knock on the door. Maya stood on the porch holding a container of fresh strawberries and wearing a yellow sundress that made her look like sunshine personified. Ethan's heart did something complicated in his chest. Hi, she said, suddenly shy. Hi. He pulled her inside and kissed her quickly, still marveling at the fact that he could do that now. Lily's still asleep. I was about to wake her. Should I be here when you do? Or would it be better if you talked to her first? Be here. We're doing this together, remember? They walked upstairs hand in hand. Lily's room was a cheerful chaos of stuffed animals, art supplies, and books. Ethan sat on the edge of her bed and gently shook her shoulder. Lilybug, time to wake up. Lily's eyes fluttered open, confused for a moment before focusing on him. Then she saw Maya standing in the doorway and sat bolt upright. Miss Maya, what are you doing here so early? Your dad and I need to talk to you about something, Maya said gently, coming to sit on the other side of the bed. Something important. Lily's eyes went wide, flicking between them. Ethan could practically see her brain working, putting pieces together. Is this about yesterday? About the kiss? Yes, Ethan said. It is. Are you mad at me for making you do it? Lily's voice was small, worried. No, sweetheart. We're not mad. Ethan took her hand. Actually, we wanted to say thank you, because you were right. Miss Maya and I do have feelings for each other, feelings that are more than just friendship. So Lily's whole face transformed, lighting up like Christmas morning. Really? You mean it? We mean it, Maya confirmed. But we wanted to talk to you about it first because this affects you too. If your dad and I decide to be together, to try dating and see if this could work, it would change things. Would you be okay with that? Okay with it? Lily looked at them like they'd lost their minds. I've been trying to make this happen for forever. Of course I'm okay with it. Ethan couldn't help but laugh at her indignation. I had a feeling you'd say that, but I need you to understand something, Lily. Just because Maya and I are going to try being more than friends doesn't mean everything changes overnight. We're going to take things slow, figure out how this works for all of us. But she's going to be your girlfriend, right? Lily looked at Maya hopefully. That's what you call it when grown-ups like each other? Maya smiled. I guess that's what you'd call it, yes. Can I tell Emma? She's going to be so excited. Her mom owes my mom. Lily stopped abruptly, her face falling. The casual reference to her mother hung in the air. Ethan pulled Lily into his lap, kissing the top of her head. It's okay to mention Mom, Bug. She's always going to be part of our family, no matter what. Do you think she'd be happy? Lily asked in a small voice, looking up at both of them. About you and Miss Maya. Maya reached over and took Lily's hand. I never knew your mom, sweetie. But from everything your dad has told me, she loved you both more than anything. And people who love that much want the people they leave behind to be happy. So yes, I think she'd be happy. I think she'd want your dad to find love again. What about you? Lily asked her. Do you love my dad? The question was so direct, so innocent, that Maya's eyes filled with tears. I do. I love him very much, and I love you too, Lily. You're part of this, part of us. If that's okay with you. Lily launched herself at Maya, wrapping her arms around her neck in a fierce hug. It's more than okay. It's perfect. They spent breakfast talking about what this new arrangement would mean. Ethan and Maya would go on their date next weekend, a real planned date to the fancy restaurant in Riverside. They'd see how things went from there. In the meantime, things would mostly stay the same, except now there would be hand-holding and kissing and the acknowledgement of what had been building between them for 2 years. Lily had a million questions. Would Maya move in with them? Would they get married? Would Lily get to be a flower girl? Could she call Maya something other than Miss Maya? Ethan and Maya answered as honestly as they could, emphasizing that they were taking things one step at a time. But watching Lily's excitement, seeing the joy on her face at the prospect of their little family expanding, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. After breakfast, while Lily was getting dressed, Maya helped Ethan clean up the kitchen. They moved around each other easily, a dance they'd perfected over countless shared meals. That went better than I expected, Maya said, rinsing a plate. Were you expecting resistance? I wasn't sure. Kids can be unpredictable when it comes to their parents dating. She paused, then added softly, My mom dated a few people after my dad left. I hated all of them. You never told me that. There's a lot we haven't told each other yet. Maya smiled up at him. I guess we'll have time now to learn all the things we don't know. Ethan set down the dish towel and turned her to face him. I meant what I said last night, about being terrified. This is new territory for me, Maya. I haven't dated anyone since Sarah. I don't know if I'm going to be any good at this. Then we'll figure it out together. She reached up and cupped his face. We don't have to have all the answers right now, Ethan. We just have to be willing to try. He kissed her, slow and sweet, marveling at how quickly this had become familiar, how right it felt. I'm glad it was you, he murmured against her lips. I'm glad that when I was finally ready to try again, it was with someone who already knew all my broken pieces. You're not broken, Maya said firmly. You're healing. There's a difference. The sound of footsteps on the stairs made them pull apart. Lily appeared in the kitchen doorway, dressed in her favorite purple dress and holding her art supplies. Can we all do something together today? She asked hopefully. Since it's Sunday and we don't have school or work. Ethan looked at Maya, who nodded. What did you have in mind, Bug? Can we go to the lake? Have a picnic? Miss Maya, She stopped, looking confused. What should I call you now? Maya knelt down to Lily's level. What would you like to call me? I don't know. Miss Maya feels weird now that you're Dad's girlfriend, but calling you just Maya feels weird too. How about we stick with Miss Maya for now? Maya suggested gently. And if you ever want to call me something else, you can. There's no rush to figure it all out today. Lily seemed satisfied with that. Okay. So can we go to the lake? They packed a picnic basket with sandwiches, fruit, and the cookies Maya had baked earlier in the week. The lake was only a 20-minute drive, a small state park that rarely got crowded. They found their favorite spot under a massive oak tree and spread out a blanket. It should have felt strange, this new dynamic, but somehow it didn't. Lily raced down to the water to skip stones, and Ethan and Maya sat close together on the blanket, his arm around her shoulders, her head resting against his chest. "Is this really happening?" Maya asked softly. "Or am I going to wake up and find out yesterday was just a dream?" "If it's a dream, we're both having it." Ethan kissed the top of her head. "I keep expecting to panic, to feel guilty or scared, but mostly I just feel grateful." "For what?" "For Lily, for pushing us into that contest. For you, for being patient with me. For Sarah, for loving me enough to want me to be happy even after she was gone." He tightened his arm around Maya. "For getting a second chance at this. Not everyone gets that." They sat in comfortable silence, watching Lily play at the water's edge. After a while, she came running back, wet and breathless and happy. "Come skip stones with me," she demanded, grabbing both their hands. "I want to see who can make theirs go the farthest." So they did. They spent the afternoon at the lake, skipping stones and eating sandwiches and laughing at Lily's increasingly elaborate stories about the fish that lived in the water. It was simple and perfect, and everything Ethan hadn't let himself hope for. As the sun started to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, they packed up their things. Lily fell asleep in the car on the way home, exhausted from the day's activities. Ethan carried her inside and put her to bed without her even stirring. When he came back downstairs, he found Maya waiting on the porch again. "I was wondering if you'd come back out," Maya said, patting the chair next to her. The evening air had cooled, and she'd wrapped herself in the oversized cardigan she seemed to live in during spring evenings. Ethan settled beside her, reaching for her hand automatically. It amazed him how quickly that had become natural, the touching, the closeness, the assumption that she'd be there waiting for him. "Best day I've had in years," he said quietly. "Me too." Maya laced their fingers together, studying their joined hands like she was memorizing the sight. "It felt like we were a real family today. Does that sound crazy?" "No. It felt that way to me too." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Sarah and I used to take Lily to that same spot when she was a baby. I was worried it might feel wrong, bringing you there. But it didn't. It felt like the next chapter, not a replacement for the old one." Maya turned to look at him, her eyes searching his face. "Can I ask you something? And you can tell me if it's too much, too soon." "Anything." "What was she like?" "Sarah. I know bits and pieces from what Lily said and what other people in town have mentioned, but I want to hear it from you." Ethan's first instinct was to deflect, to change the subject like he'd been doing for 3 years whenever someone tried to talk to him about his late wife. But this was Maya, and if they were going to build something real together, she deserved to know about the woman who'd come before her. "She was a force of nature," he said finally, a sad smile pulling at his lips. "Loud and impulsive and absolutely fearless. She saw something she wanted and went after it with everything she had. That's how we got together, actually. I was working construction back then, building an addition on her parents' house. She brought me lemonade every day for 2 weeks, flirted relentlessly, and then finally just asked me out herself when I was too nervous to make a move." Maya smiled. "I can see where Lily gets her determination. She's exactly like her mother in that way. Same wild hair, same stubborn streak, same absolute certainty about how the world should work." Ethan's voice grew softer. "Sarah was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer when Lily was 3. She fought for a year, longer than the doctors thought she would. And even in those last months, when she was so weak she could barely get out of bed, she was still making plans. Planning Lily's birthday parties for the next 5 years. Making me promise I'd teach Lily to ride a bike. Writing letters for Lily to open on important birthdays." "That must have been impossibly hard," Maya said quietly. "The hardest thing I've ever been through. Watching someone you love slip away piece by piece, knowing there's nothing you can do to stop it." He squeezed Maya's hand. "For a long time after she died, I was just going through the motions. Taking care of Lily because I had to. Working because we needed money. Existing but not really living. And then you moved in next door." "I didn't do anything special." "You did everything special. You saw a broken man and a grieving child, and instead of treating us like we were fragile, you just showed up. Brought bread, offered to help, made us laugh again." Ethan turned to face her fully. "You didn't try to fix us or replace what we'd lost. You just made space for yourself in our lives, and somehow that space filled with light. Maya's eyes were bright with tears. I was so lonely when I moved here. I'd just gone through a terrible breakup, left a job I hated, had no family to speak of. Willow Creek was supposed to be a fresh start, but I didn't know anyone. And then there was this little girl next door who kept leaving me drawings, and her father who looked at her with so much love it made my heart ache. You two saved me as much as you think I saved you. You never told me about the breakup. There wasn't much to tell. I was with someone for 4 years who kept promising we'd get married, buy a house, start a life together. But he was always waiting for the right time, the right moment, the right circumstances. I finally realized he was never going to be ready, that I was wasting my life waiting for someone who didn't really want what I wanted. She laughed without humor. Kind of ironic, considering I then spent 2 years waiting for you. That's different. I wasn't stringing you along. I genuinely didn't know you felt that way. I know. That's what made the waiting bearable. You weren't playing games or making false promises. You were just trying to survive and raise your daughter. Maya rested her head on his shoulder. But I'm glad the waiting is over. I'm glad we finally got here. They sat in comfortable silence, watching fireflies begin to blink in the gathering darkness. Ethan felt a peace settle over him that he hadn't experienced in years. This was what he'd been missing without even realizing it. Someone to share the quiet moments with, someone who understood both his past and his present. The date next weekend, Maya said eventually. Where are we going? That fancy French place in Riverside that Carol's always raving about. Le Papillon. That's expensive, Ethan. The gift certificate won't cover the whole bill. I don't care. I want to take you somewhere nice, somewhere that feels special. He grinned. Besides, I've been saving up. Furniture business has been good lately. Mrs. Henderson referred 3 of her friends to me after I finished her chair. Still, we could go somewhere simpler. I'd be happy with pizza and a movie. We can do pizza and a movie anytime. This is our first official date. It should be memorable. Maya lifted her head to look at him, her expression tender. Ethan Carter, are you a romantic underneath all that practical exterior? Maybe. Is that a problem? Not even a little bit. She kissed him softly. Though I should warn you, I'm a terrible date. I talk too much when I'm nervous. I always order too much food, and I have this annoying habit of stealing bites from other people's plates. Lucky for you, I like listening to you talk. I'm always still hungry after I finish my meal, and I fully intend to order something you'll want to steal. He pulled her closer. We're going to be fine, Maya. Better than fine. The week that followed was strange and wonderful. On the surface, not much changed. Ethan still worked in his workshop. Maya still went to the library. Lily still came home from school full of stories and energy. But underneath it all, everything was different. Ethan found himself texting Maya throughout the day, sharing small observations and inside jokes. She'd send him pictures of particularly absurd book titles she found while cataloging donations. He'd send her photos of Lily's latest art projects. They'd meet for lunch when their schedules aligned, stealing kisses in his truck like teenagers. At night, after Lily was asleep, they'd sit on one porch or the other, talking about everything and nothing. Maya told him about her childhood in Boston, her complicated relationship with her mother, her dream of one day writing a novel. Ethan shared stories about his years in construction, the leap of faith it had taken to start his furniture business, his fears about being a good enough father. The easy friendship they'd built over 2 years deepened into something more intimate, more vulnerable. They were learning each other in new ways, the way Maya hummed while she cooked, how Ethan always checked on Lily 3 times before he could fully relax for the evening, the way they both reached for each other's hands without thinking whenever they were close. Lily watched it all with barely contained glee. She'd appointed herself the official relationship cheerleader, offering unsolicited advice and commentary at every opportunity. You should bring Miss Maya flowers, Dad. Emma's dad brings her mom flowers every Friday. You have to hold hands when you walk. That's what boyfriends and girlfriends do. When you kiss her goodbye, it should be romantic, like in the movies. Ethan took her advice with good humor, though he drew the line at grand romantic gestures. He was 42 years old and had never been the type for elaborate displays of affection. But he did bring Maya flowers from the garden. He did hold her hand when they walked through town. And he did kiss her goodbye in a way that made her blush and smile. The town's reaction to their relationship was overwhelmingly positive. Carol Henderson seemed to take personal credit for their union. telling anyone who would listen that she'd known they were perfect for each other all along. The mayor's wife cornered Maya at the library to say how happy she was to see her with someone who deserved her. Even old Mr. Patterson from the hardware store clapped Ethan on the back and told him Sarah would be proud. That last comment stuck with Ethan. He'd been so worried about betraying Sarah's memory that he hadn't considered she might actually approve of Maya. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized how much the two women had in common. They were both kind, both nurturing, both possessed of a quiet strength that manifested in the way they cared for others. Sarah would have liked Maya. She might have even picked her out for him herself. The thought brought both comfort and pain. Comfort in knowing he wasn't betraying anyone. Pain in the renewed awareness of what he'd lost. Thursday evening, 3 days before their planned Shkin date, Ethan was working late in his workshop when Maya appeared in the doorway. She looked upset, her eyes red-rimmed like she'd been crying. "What's wrong?" He was on his feet immediately, crossing to her. "What happened?" "My mother called." Maya's voice was tight. "She's coming to visit next weekend. She'll be here Saturday." "Okay, that's the same day as our date, but we can reschedule." "No, you don't understand." Maya wrapped her arms around herself. "My mother is difficult, critical. She has opinions about everything I do, and none of them are positive. And when I told her I was seeing someone, she said she needed to come meet you, to make sure you're appropriate." Ethan felt a flash of irritation on Maya's behalf. "You're 34 years old. You don't need her approval." "I know that logically, but emotionally?" Maya laughed bitterly. "I spent my whole childhood trying to please her, to be good enough. Even now, even knowing she'll never be satisfied, I still want her to approve of my choices." He pulled her into his arms, feeling her tension gradually ease as she leaned into him. "Tell me about her." "Her name is Patricia. She's a retired professor, brilliant and exacting, and utterly convinced that her way is the only right way to live. She hated that I became a librarian instead of getting a PhD. She hated my ex-boyfriend, though in retrospect she was right about him. She hated that I moved to a small town instead of staying in the city." Maya pulled back to look at him. "She's going to pick apart everything about you, about us, your job, your daughter, the fact that you're a widower. Nothing will be good enough for her precious daughter." "Then we'll prove her wrong." Ethan cupped her face gently. "Maya, I'm not scared of your mother. I'm a grown man who runs his own business, owns his home, and raises a great kid. If she can't see that you and I are good together, that's her problem, not ours." "You haven't met her yet. You don't know how she can twist things, make you doubt yourself." "Hey!" He waited until she met his eyes. "I've been through the worst thing a person can experience. I've lost the love of my life, raised a child alone through grief and exhaustion, and built a life out of the rubble. Your mother's disapproval isn't going to break me." Maya's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they looked like relief. "How are you so steady, so sure about everything?" "I'm not sure about everything, but I'm sure about you, about us, and that's enough." She kissed him hard, pouring gratitude and fear and love into it. When they finally pulled apart, her expression was more determined than worried. "Okay, she'll be here Saturday afternoon. We should probably cancel the dinner reservation." "No," Ethan said firmly. "We're not canceling. We'll meet your mother, be polite, answer her questions. But then we're going on our date as planned. We've been looking forward to this all week, and I'm not letting anyone take that away from us." "She'll hate that. She'll think I'm being disrespectful, prioritizing a date over spending time with her." "Then she'll hate it." "Maya, you've spent your whole life managing her feelings. Maybe it's time she managed her own." Maya stared at him for a long moment, then laughed. It was a surprised, slightly manic sound, but genuine. "You're right. You're absolutely right. Why am I letting her dictate my schedule before she's even arrived? Because she's your mother and old habits die hard. But you don't have to keep living like that." He kissed her forehead. "We'll get through this together. All three of us, if she's willing to meet Lily too. She'll insist on it. She'll want to evaluate whether you're a good father, whether Lily is well-adjusted, whether our family dynamic is healthy." Maya made air quotes around the last word. "Fair warning, she has a lot of opinions about child rearing. I've been raising Lily for 7 years, 4 of them alone. I think I can handle one woman's opinions." As it turned out, Ethan had vastly underestimated Patricia Bennett. She arrived precisely at 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, driving a sleek silver sedan that looked out of place on their quiet street. Ethan watched from his window as she emerged from the car, a tall, thin woman with Maya's dark hair gone silver, and an expression that suggested she smelled something unpleasant. Maya had spent the morning cleaning her cottage to within an inch of its life, despite Ethan's assurances that her mother's opinion of her housekeeping didn't matter. Now she stood on her porch, visibly bracing herself as Patricia approached. Ethan had intended to give them privacy for their reunion, but Lily had other ideas. "Can we go say hi?" she asked, pressing her nose to the window. "That's Miss Maya's mom, right? We should let them have some time alone first, Bug." "But what if Miss Maya needs backup? She looked really worried this morning." Ethan considered this. Maya had looked worried. More than worried, she'd looked like she was preparing for battle. And while he didn't want to intrude on a private family moment, he also didn't want Maya to face her mother's judgment alone. "Tell you what," he said. "Let's give them 15 minutes. Then we'll go over and introduce ourselves." 15 minutes later, they crossed the yard to Maya's cottage. Through the open window, Ethan could hear Patricia's crisp, cultured voice. "Really, Maya, I don't understand why you insist on staying in this backwater town. You could get a position at any university library in Boston. This place is beneath your capabilities." "I like it here, Mother. I have friends, a community, a life. A life working in a building that barely qualifies as a library, living in a cottage that's falling apart. The cottage is charming, and I've made it a home. Not everything has to meet your standards to have value." Ethan knocked before the argument could escalate further. Maya opened the door, relief flooding her face when she saw them. "Ethan, Lily, come in." Patricia stood in the center of the small living room, her critical gaze sweeping over them with the precision of a laser. She was impeccably dressed in cream slacks and a silk blouse, her posture perfect, her expression revealing nothing. "Mother, this is Ethan Carter and his daughter Lily. Ethan, Lily, this is my mother, Patricia Bennett." "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Bennett." Ethan extended his hand, which Patricia shook with the enthusiasm of someone handling a dead fish. "Dr. Bennett," she corrected coolly, "I didn't spend 8 years in graduate school to be called Mrs." "Of course, Dr. Bennett." Patricia's attention shifted to Lily, who was half hiding behind Ethan's leg. "And this is the child Maya has been spending so much time with." "Her name is Lily," Maya said, a sharp edge to her voice. "And yes, she's my friend." "You're friends with a 7-year-old? Patricia's tone suggested this was somehow scandalous. "Maya, that's highly unusual." "Actually, Miss Maya is my dad's girlfriend," Lily piped up, emerging from behind Ethan. "Which means she's my friend and his girlfriend. It's not that complicated." Ethan bit back a smile at Patricia's expression of surprise. His daughter had no patience for pretense or unnecessary formality, a trait he was suddenly very grateful for. "I see." Patricia turned her attention back to Ethan. "Maya mentioned you're a widower." "I am. My wife passed away 3 years ago." "And you work in manual labor?" The disdain in her voice was subtle, but unmistakable. Ethan felt his jaw tighten. "I'm a custom furniture maker. I run my own business." "How quaint." Patricia settled onto Maya's couch like she owned it. "And you're raising your daughter alone while running this business? That must be challenging." "I manage." "Clearly." Her eyes swept over Lily, taking in her slightly crooked ponytail and grass-stained sneakers. "Though I imagine proper supervision is difficult when you're working with dangerous tools all day." "Lily is very well supervised," Maya cut in sharply. "Ethan is an excellent father." "I'm sure he does his best." Patricia's tone suggested his best wasn't nearly good enough. "But a child needs more than just one parent, especially a daughter. She needs female influence, proper guidance." "She has me," Maya said. "Yes, a woman who isn't her mother, living next door, playing house." Patricia fixed her daughter with a look that could freeze water. "Maya, we need to discuss this privately. Perhaps Mr. Carter and his daughter could give us some space." "Actually," Ethan said, his voice calm but firm, "we came over to invite you and Maya to join us for dinner tonight. Nothing fancy, just burgers on the grill, unless you have other plans." Patricia looked like she'd been asked to eat roadkill. "I was hoping to spend the evening with my daughter. We have much to discuss." "You can discuss it over dinner." Lily suggested helpfully. Dad makes really good burgers, and we have chocolate chip ice cream for dessert. I don't think... We'd love to come, Maya interrupted, shooting Ethan a grateful look. What time should we be there? 6 o'clock. That'll give you ladies plenty of time to catch up this afternoon. They excused themselves, and as soon as they were back in their own house, Lily tugged on Ethan's hand. Dad, Miss Maya's mom is mean. She's not mean exactly. She's just particular about things. She doesn't like us. I could tell. Ethan knelt down to Lily's level. You're right. She probably doesn't. But that's okay. Not everyone has to like us. What matters is that Miss Maya likes us and we like her. But what if her mom makes her stop being your girlfriend? That won't happen, Bug. Maya makes her own decisions. Her mother might not approve, but that doesn't mean Maya will change her mind about us. Lily didn't look convinced, but she nodded and went to play in her room. Ethan spent the afternoon preparing for dinner, marinating meat and making potato salad while trying not to think about what was happening next door. He'd faced down difficult clients, hostile contractors, and the soul-crushing grief of losing his wife. He could handle one critical mother-in-law. Except Patricia wasn't his mother-in-law. Not yet. Maybe not ever, if she had anything to say about it. At 6 o'clock, Maya and Patricia arrived. Maya looked exhausted, like she'd spent the afternoon in combat. Patricia looked perfectly composed and utterly unimpressed by Ethan's modest but well-maintained house. Dinner was awkward from the start. Patricia picked at her burger like it might be poisonous, asked pointed questions about Ethan's finances and future plans, and made thinly veiled criticisms of everything from his parenting to his furniture business to the fact that he'd never gone to college. Self-taught, she mused when he explained his woodworking skills. How rustic. It means Dad is really good at figuring things out on his own, Lily said, her voice fierce with loyalty. He built my whole bedroom set, and everyone who sees it says it's beautiful. I'm sure it's adequate for your needs. Maya's knuckles were white where she gripped her fork. It's more than adequate, Mother. Ethan is extremely talented. People commission pieces from him months in advance. Yes, I'm sure the local yokels are impressed. Patricia dabbed at her mouth with her napkin. But surely, Maya, you must see that this situation is far from ideal. You're an educated woman with prospects. You could do so much better than a small-town tradesman with a child to raise. The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan felt anger surge through him, not for himself but for Maya, who looked like she'd been slapped. That's enough. Maya's voice was quiet but shaking with emotion. You do not get to come into my home, meet the man I care about, and insult him to his face. I'm not insulting him. I'm being realistic about your future. This man is clearly not your equal intellectually or professionally. And taking on someone else's child? Maya, you're only 34. You could still find someone appropriate, someone who hasn't already lived a whole life before you. Someone appropriate? Maya stood, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. What does that even mean, Mother? Someone with a PhD? Someone who works at a university? Someone who meets your impossibly high standards? Someone who can give you the life you deserve? Ethan gives me the life I deserve. Maya's voice broke. He treats me with respect and kindness. He makes me laugh. He's patient and gentle and strong. His daughter is wonderful and loving and has more emotional intelligence at 7 than you've shown in your entire life. We're building something real here, something good, and I won't let you poison it with your judgment. Patricia stood as well, her expression icy. I raised you better than this. I raised you to have standards, to expect excellence, and instead you're settling for mediocrity in a town no one has ever heard of. You raised me to be afraid, Maya shot back. Afraid of not being good enough, afraid of disappointing you, afraid of choosing my own happiness over your approval. Well, I'm done being afraid. I love Ethan. I love Lily. And if you can't accept that, if you can't be happy that I've finally found people who love me back, then maybe you should leave. Maya, Ethan started, not wanting to be the cause of a family rupture. No. Maya held up her hand without looking at him. This has been building for years, and it's time I said it. Mother, I have spent my entire life trying to be what you wanted. I got perfect grades. I got into a good college. I pursued a respectable career, and nothing was ever enough. You always found something to criticize, some way I could have done better, I'm exhausted. I'm done. Patricia's face had gone pale. I only want what's best for you. Then trust me to know what's best for myself. Maya's voice softened slightly. I love you, Mother, but I can't live my life according to your blueprint anymore. I'm happy here, happier than I've been in years, and I'm asking you, begging you, to be happy for me. The two women stared at each other across the table. Lily had gone very quiet, her eyes wide as she watched the drama unfold. Ethan wanted to intervene, to smooth things over, but he knew this was Maya's battle to fight. Finally, Patricia picked up her purse. I think I should go to my hotel. Clearly, I'm not welcome here. You're welcome if you can be respectful, Maya said quietly. But if you're going to continue criticizing the man I love and the life I've chosen, then yes, you should go. Patricia walked to the door, then paused with her hand on the knob. He's not good enough for you, Maya. Someday you'll realize that. He's everything I need. Someday maybe you'll realize that there's more than one way to live a good life. The door closed behind Patricia with a soft click. Maya stood frozen for a moment, then crumpled into the nearest chair, her face in her hands. Ethan was at her side immediately, pulling her into his arms. I'm sorry, she sobbed against his chest. I'm so sorry you had to witness that. Don't apologize. You were amazing. He stroked her hair gently. I'm proud of you for standing up to her. I've never done that before. Never. I always just took it, tried to do better, tried to make her proud. Maya pulled back, wiping at her tears. I can't believe I just told my mother to leave. You told her she could stay if she was respectful, Ethan corrected. There's a difference. Lily climbed into Maya's lap, wrapping her small arms around her neck. Your mom was wrong. You're not settling. You're choosing us. And we're the best thing ever. Maya laughed through her tears, hugging Lily tight. You absolutely are, sweetheart. They spent the rest of the evening quietly, letting the tension of dinner dissipate. Patricia didn't call or text, and Maya didn't reach out either. By the time they were getting ready for their date, some of the color had returned to Maya's face. We don't have to go, Ethan said as he helped her into his truck. If you're not up for it after everything. No, I want to go. Maya buckled her seatbelt with determination. I stood up to my mother for the first time in my life. I'm not letting her ruin this too. The drive to Riverside took 40 minutes, and somewhere along the way, Maya's mood shifted from sad to almost giddy. She started laughing about the absurdity of the evening, doing impressions of her mother's most cutting remarks in an exaggerated accent that had Ethan in stitches. How rustic, she drawled in a perfect imitation of Patricia. How quaint, how utterly beneath my daughter's capabilities. Don't forget local yokels, Ethan added. That was my personal favorite. She's such a snob. I don't know how I turned out normal. You turned out better than normal. You turned out wonderful. Maya leaned across the console to kiss his cheek. I meant what I said back there. I do love you. Ethan's heart stuttered. She'd said it during the argument with her mother, but he'd thought it might have been heat of the moment, something said for effect. Hearing her say it again, quietly and deliberately, made it real. I love you too, he said, the words feeling both terrifying and perfect. I've probably loved you for a while now. I was just too stubborn to admit it. They arrived at Le Papillon to find it was everything Carol had promised. Intimate lighting, fresh flowers on every table, a menu that required translation. The waiter treated them like royalty, and for 2 hours, they forgot about critical mothers and complicated pasts. They just enjoyed being together, trying each other's food, and talking about nothing important, and feeling like the luckiest people in the world. As they were finishing dessert, a chocolate soufflé they shared from one plate, Maya's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and sighed. My mother. She wants to meet for breakfast tomorrow before she drives back to Boston. Are you going to go? I think I should. Not to apologize or take back what I said, but to make sure we're okay. Or as okay as we can be, given everything. Maya set down her fork. Will you come with me? Are you sure? That might make things worse. Or it might make things better. If she sees us together in a normal setting, sees how good we are together, maybe she'll start to understand. Maya reached across the table for his hand. I don't need her blessing, Ethan, but I'd like it. And I think the only way that happens is if she spends actual time with you, not just one disastrous dinner. So the next morning found Ethan sitting across from Patricia Bennett in a diner in downtown Willow Creek, trying to make conversation while she studied him like a particularly interesting specimen under a microscope. "You seem to make my daughter happy," Patricia said finally, her tone neutral. "I try to." That's more than her last boyfriend managed. She stirred her coffee precisely 3 times. "Maya didn't tell you much about him, I assume?" "Just that he wasn't ready for commitment. He was a fool. My daughter is extraordinary, and he couldn't see it." Patricia looked up, meeting Ethan's eyes directly. "I don't want to see her hurt again. That's why I was direct yesterday." "Direct is one word for it," Maya muttered. Patricia ignored her. "You seem like a decent man, Mr. Carter, but you come with complications. A child, a dead wife, a small-town life. My daughter deserves more than complications." "With respect, Doctor Bennett," Ethan said carefully, "I think Maya deserves to decide for herself what she wants. And she's chosen this. Chosen me and Lily and our complicated life. For now. But what about in 5 years, 10, when the novelty wears off and she realizes what she's given up?" "Then we'll deal with it," Maya said firmly. "But I'm not going to walk away from something real because of what might happen someday. I spent too many years living like that, always waiting for the perfect moment that never came." Patricia was quiet for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she said, "I owe you an apology, Mr. Carter. My behavior last night was inexcusable. I was rude to you and to your daughter, and regardless of my concerns, there was no excuse for that." Ethan blinked, surprised. "Thank you. I appreciate that. Don't thank me yet. I still think this relationship is a mistake." She held up a hand when Maya started to protest. "But I also recognize that my opinion doesn't matter as much as I'd like it to. Maya is an adult, and she's made her choice. The least I can do is be civil about it." It wasn't exactly a ringing endorsement, but it was progress. They finished breakfast with less tension than dinner, and when Patricia hugged Maya goodbye in the parking lot, there were tears in both their eyes. "Call me," Patricia said. "Not just when I call you first. Actually call me and tell me about your life." "I will, if you promise to actually listen instead of just criticizing." "I'll try." Patricia's smile was wry. "Old habits die hard, but I'll try." After she drove away, Maya collapsed against Ethan's side. "That was exhausting." "But good, I think. You two made some progress." "Maybe. She'll probably never fully approve of you, you know. You don't have the right credentials, the right background." "That's okay. I don't need her approval to love you." Maya tilted her face up to his, her eyes soft with affection. "How did I get so lucky to find you?" "I think we found each other. And somehow, despite all the reasons it shouldn't work, it does." They kissed in the parking lot, not caring who might see them, celebrating the fact that they'd survived their first real test as a couple. When they finally pulled apart, Maya was smiling. "So," she said, "where do we go from here?" Ethan thought about it. Thought about all the steps they'd already taken, all the fears they'd overcome. Thought about Lily waiting at home with Mrs. Henderson, probably bouncing off the walls with questions about how the date went. Thought about the future stretching out before them, full of possibility. "Forward," he said simply. "Together, we just keep going forward." And forward they went, though not without stumbling along the way. The next few months brought both joy and challenges as they navigated the transition from friends to partners, from 2 separate households to something that increasingly resembled a blended family. The first real test came on a rainy Tuesday in late June, when Lily came home from school in tears. Ethan was in the workshop when he heard the school bus, followed immediately by the sound of the front door slamming. He found his daughter sprawled face down on her bed, sobbing into her pillow. "Lilybug, what happened?" He sat beside her, his hand on her back. "Did something happen at school?" "Tommy Henderson said my family is weird," she hiccuped. "He said it's not normal to have a dad's girlfriend living next door instead of a real mom, and Emma agreed with him. She said her mom says we're playing house, and that Miss Maya is trying to replace my real mom." Ethan felt anger surge through him. Carol Henderson, for all her earlier enthusiasm about his relationship with Maya, apparently had a different tune when it came to discussing it with her daughter. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to stay calm for Lily's sake. "First of all, There's no such thing as a normal family. Every family looks different, and that's okay. Second, Miss Maya isn't trying to replace your mom. No one could ever replace her. But Emma's right that it's weird, isn't it? That we're not married, but she's here all the time, that she helps me with homework and comes to my soccer games, but she's not actually my parent? Lily sat up, her face blotchy with tears. What even is she to us, Dad? She's not my stepmom. She's not really family. She's just there. The question hung in the air, exposing the fundamental uncertainty they'd all been dancing around for months. What was Maya to them exactly? Where did their relationship fit in the neat categories that 7-year-olds and small-town gossips needed to make sense of the world? She's someone who loves us, Ethan said finally. Someone we love back. That's what matters, not what we call it. But I want to call it something, Lily insisted. I want to tell people what she is. And Dad's girlfriend sounds so temporary, like she might leave any day. She's not going to leave. How do you know? It was a fair question, one that Ethan had asked himself in darker moments. How did he know Maya would stay? They'd only been officially together for a few months. They hadn't made any permanent commitments, hadn't talked about marriage or living together or any of the milestones that would signal this was forever. Because I trust her, he said, and because she loves you as much as I do. Then why doesn't she live with us? Why do we still have 2 separate houses? Because Ethan struggled for an answer that would make sense. Because we're taking things slow, making sure we do this right. But it feels right already. It's felt right for months. Lily grabbed his hand urgently. Can't we just ask her to move in? Then she'd really be part of our family, and I could tell everyone she's my stepmom or my bonus mom or whatever. It's not that simple, sweetheart. Why not? You love her, she loves you. I love her, she loves me. What else is there? Out of the mouths of babes, Ethan thought. His daughter had just summarized what he'd been overcomplicating for months. What else was there, really, besides love and commitment and the daily choice to build a life together? Let me talk to Miss Maya, okay? We'll figure something out. But when he brought it up to Maya that evening, after Lily had cried herself to sleep, her reaction wasn't what he expected. She wants me to move in? Maya's voice was careful, neutral. What did you tell her? That we're taking things slow, that we want to do this right. Ethan studied her face, trying to read her expression. But honestly, Maya, is that still true? Are we taking things slow, or are we just being scared? Maybe both. She was sitting in his kitchen, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea she wasn't drinking. Moving in together is a big step, Ethan. It changes everything. Haven't things already changed? You're here almost every night anyway. Your toothbrush is in my bathroom, your books are on my shelves, half your clothes end up in my laundry. The only thing that hasn't changed is your mailing address. It's not about logistics. It's about... She trailed off, searching for words. It's about what it means. Moving in says this is permanent, that we're committed to building a life together. And I want that, I do. But I need to know you want it too, not just because Lily is upset, or because it would make things easier. I want it, Ethan said firmly. I've wanted it for weeks, maybe months. I just didn't think you were ready. I wasn't sure you were ready. You've been so careful, so cautious about everything. I thought you needed more time. They stared at each other across the kitchen table, both realizing they'd been holding back out of consideration for the other person, creating a stalemate neither actually wanted. So we're both idiots, Ethan said finally. We're both ready, but we've been too scared to say it. Apparently, Maya laughed shakily. What do we do now? Now I ask you properly. Ethan stood and walked around the table, taking her hands and pulling her to her feet. Maya Bennett, would you move in with me and Lily? Would you make this house a home for all 3 of us, officially and permanently? Maya's eyes filled with tears. You're serious? You really want this? I've never been more serious about anything, except maybe the first time I told you I loved you. But this feels like the natural next step, doesn't it? We're already acting like a family. We should make it official. What about Lily? Does she really want this, or is she just reacting to what those kids said at school? She really wants it. She asked me point blank why you don't live here. She wants to be able to call you something more than Dad's girlfriend. Ethan squeezed her hands. What do you want her to call you? I don't know. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Maya bit her lip. I don't want to try to be her mother. Sarah was her mother, and nothing changes that. But I want to be. Something. Someone permanent in her life. Someone she knows she can count on. Then we'll figure it out together. The three of us. He kissed her softly. Is that a yes? Will you move in? Yes. Maya laughed through her tears. Yes, I'll move in. I'll become part of your family officially. I'll help you figure out what to tell nosy second graders and their gossipy mothers. They told Lily the next morning over breakfast, and her reaction was everything Ethan had hoped for. She screamed with joy, knocked over her orange juice in her excitement to hug Maya, and immediately started planning which room would be Maya's office and where they should put all her books. Can we tell Emma? She asked eagerly. Can I tell her that Miss Maya is moving in and she's going to be part of our family forever? You can tell Emma, Maya said, pulling Lily onto her lap. But remember, honey, some people might not understand. They might think it's too fast or that we're doing things the wrong way. Who cares what they think? We know it's right. Lily's 7-year-old certainty was absolute and unshakable. If only adult life were that simple, Ethan thought, because as word of Maya's impending move spread through Willow Creek, the reactions were decidedly mixed. Carol Henderson cornered him at the hardware store, her expression caught between concern and judgment. Ethan, are you sure about this? It's awfully fast. You've only been dating for a few months. We've known each other for over 2 years, Carol, and we're both adults who know what we want. But what about Lily? Have you thought about how this might affect her if things don't work out? Things are going to work out. He tried to keep the irritation out of his voice. Maya loves Lily, and Lily loves her. This is good for all of us. I just think you should be careful. Moving in together is a big commitment, and Maya is still so young. What if she changes her mind, decides she wants a different life, children who don't come with another woman's ghost attached? The comment stung, mainly because it hit on a fear Ethan himself harbored in quiet moments. What if Maya eventually resented taking on a ready-made family? What if she woke up one day and realized she'd sacrificed too much too young? But when he voiced these fears to Maya that night, she shut them down immediately. Carol Henderson doesn't know what she's talking about, Maya said fiercely. I'm not some child who doesn't know her own mind. I'm 34 years old. I've dated other people, lived other lives, and I'm choosing this one, consciously and deliberately. I'm choosing you and Lily because you're what I want, not because I'm settling or don't know any better. But what if? No, what ifs? She cupped his face in her hands. Ethan, I know what I'm getting into. I know about the school pickups and the sleepless nights when Lily is sick and the ballet recitals and the parent-teacher conferences. I know about the grief that still catches you off guard sometimes and the fact that Sarah will always be part of your story. I know all of it, and I still want this. I still want us. I needed to hear that, he admitted. Carol got in my head. Carol needs to mind her own business. Maya's expression softened. But I understand why you're worried. This is a big step for all of us. It's okay to be nervous. The actual move happened over the course of 2 weekends, with Lily supervising enthusiastically and reorganizing Maya's books approximately 17 times. They converted the guest room into an office for Maya, lined the walls with bookshelves Ethan built specially for her collection, and created a cozy reading nook by the window. It was strange at first seeing Maya's things integrated with his and Sarah's. Her vintage teacups in the kitchen cupboard next to the everyday dishes. Her floral bathrobe hanging beside his on the bathroom door. Her laptop set up on the dining room table where she graded papers from the library's literacy program. But strange didn't mean bad. It just meant different. A new chapter literally unfolding in the pages of their daily life. The first real conflict came about 3 weeks after Maya officially moved in. Ethan came home from delivering a custom desk to a client in Riverside to find Maya and Lily in a standoff in the kitchen, both of them crying. What happened? He set down his keys, looking between them in confusion. I told her she couldn't have dessert before dinner, Maya said, her voice tight. And she said I'm not her mother and can't tell her what to do. Lily's face was red and defiant. You're not! My mom is dead, and you're just Dad's girlfriend who lives here now. The words hung in the air like a slap. Maya looked stricken, all the color draining from her face. Ethan felt torn between defending Maya and comforting his daughter, knowing that whatever he did next would set a precedent for how they handled these conflicts. "Lily, go to your room," he said quietly. "Now." "But, Dad, now." Lily fled, her sobs echoing down the hallway. Ethan turned to Maya, who was gripping the counter like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I shouldn't have pushed. I should have just let it go." "You did nothing wrong. You set a reasonable boundary, and she lashed out because she knew it would hurt you." He pulled Maya into his arms, feeling her shake. Kids test boundaries, especially with new parental figures. This was probably inevitable. "She's right, though. I'm not her mother. I don't have the right to discipline her or set rules or—" "Yes, you do." Ethan pulled back to look at her. "You live here. You're part of this family. You absolutely have the right to set expectations and enforce consequences. We should have talked about this before you moved in, established clear boundaries about your role." "What is my role?" Maya asked helplessly. "I don't know how to navigate this, Ethan. I don't want to overstep, but I also can't just ignore bad behavior when you're not here." "Your role is partner, co-parent, the adult in Lily's life who loves her and guides her alongside me." He kissed her forehead. "Let me talk to her. We'll sort this out." He found Lily curled up on her bed, still crying. Ethan sat beside her, his heart aching at the sight of her distress. She was so young to be dealing with such complicated emotions, such messy family dynamics. "That was really hurtful, what you said to Miss Maya," he began gently. "But it's true, she's not my mom." "No, she's not. No one is trying to replace your mom, Lily, but Maya is part of our family now, which means she gets a say in the rules and the discipline. Just like if we had a babysitter, you'd still have to listen to them even though they're not your parent." "It's not the same." Lily sat up, her face fierce through the tears. "A babysitter is temporary. Maya is supposed to be forever. But she's not my mom, and she's not really family, so what is she? Where does she fit?" It was the same question from weeks ago, still unanswered because they'd all been avoiding the difficult conversation about roles and titles and expectations. "Maya is my partner," Ethan said carefully, "and she's someone who loves you very much and wants to help take care of you. What would you like to call her?" "I don't know." Lily's frustration boiled over. "I don't have words for what she is. She's not my stepmom because you're not married. She's not just your girlfriend because she lives here. She's not my mom because mom died. So what is she?" "She's Maya," Ethan said simply. "She's Maya, who reads you bedtime stories and helps with your homework and cheers at your soccer games. She's Maya, who chose to love you and be part of your life. Does she need to be more than that?" Lily considered this, her tears slowing. "But what do I tell people at school?" "You tell them Maya is family. You tell them she lives with us and helps take care of you and loves you. You don't need a fancy title to explain that." "What if they ask if she's my stepmom?" "Then you can say she's something even better. She's chosen family. She didn't have to love you, but she does anyway." Something in Lily's expression shifted, some of the anger draining away. "I was mean to her, wasn't I?" "You were. You hurt her feelings because you were frustrated and wanted to push her away. But that's what people do sometimes when they're scared. They lash out at the people they love most." "I'm not scared," Lily protested. "I think maybe you are. I think you're scared that if you let Maya all the way in, let her be a real parent to you, it means forgetting your mom, or being disloyal to her memory." Ethan pulled Lily close. "But loving Maya doesn't mean loving your mom less. Your heart is big enough for both of them." Lily was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then she asked in a small voice, "Do you think Mom would be mad that we have Maya now?" "No, sweetheart. I think Mom would be grateful that someone as wonderful as Maya wants to love and protect you. I think she'd want you to be happy, even if that happiness looks different than she imagined." "I should apologize, shouldn't I?" "Yes, you should. And then we're all going to sit down together and talk about rules and expectations and how we make this work as a family." They found Maya in the living room, curled up on the couch with red-rimmed eyes. Lily approached slowly, her earlier defiance completely gone. "Miss Maya, I'm really sorry for what I said. You're not just Dad's girlfriend, you're family, and I shouldn't have been mean when you were just trying to help." Maya opened her arms, and Lily flew into them, both of them crying again. "I'm sorry too, sweetheart. I should have been more understanding. This is all new for both of us. Can we make rules together? Lily asked. So we all know what's okay? They spent that evening having the conversation they should have had weeks ago. They talked about Maya's authority to enforce rules, about consequences and expectations, about how Lily could come to either adult with problems or concerns. They discussed what to tell people at school, settling on, Maya is my family and she lives with us, as the simplest explanation. And they talked about what Lily should call Maya. After much discussion, Lily suggested Maya, without the miss, a small change that somehow felt monumental. Just Maya, simple and honest, no qualifiers needed. The next few weeks were smoother, though not without bumps. There were disagreements about bedtimes and vegetables and how much TV was too much. There were moments when Lily still tested boundaries, pushing to see if Maya would stick around even when things got difficult. And there were quiet moments when Ethan would find Maya staring at Sarah's photo on the mantel, wrestling with her own insecurities about her place in this family. But they worked through it, all three of them learning to communicate and compromise and choose each other even when it was hard. The breakthrough came in late August, on what would have been Sarah's birthday. Ethan had dreaded this day for weeks, unsure how to honor his late wife's memory while acknowledging the new woman in his life. In previous years, he and Lily had spent the day alone, looking at photos and sharing memories and letting themselves be sad. But this year was different. This year, Maya was part of the equation. I think we should do something special, Maya said a few days before. Something to honor Sarah and include Lily in remembering her mom. But you don't have to do that, Ethan said. I know it might be uncomfortable. She was important to you and Lily. That makes her important to me. Maya took his hand. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I realize that being part of this family means being part of all of it. The joy and the grief, the past and the present. I can't love you both and pretend Sarah never existed. So on Sarah's birthday, Maya helped Lily bake her mother's favorite lemon cake from a recipe card Ethan had saved. They looked through photo albums together, and Maya asked questions about the woman she'd never met. What was her laugh like? What were her favorite things? What would she think about this or that? Lily opened up in a way she hadn't in years, sharing memories and stories while Maya listened with genuine interest and empathy. And when Lily asked if they could release balloons with messages to her mom like they used to, Maya was the one who drove to the store to buy them. They stood in the backyard at sunset, each with a balloon. Lily went first, her message simple and sweet. Hi, Mom. I miss you. I love you. I'm happy now. Ethan's message was longer, more complicated, an acknowledgement of gratitude and grief and the impossible gift of second chances. And then it was Maya's turn. I don't know what to write, she admitted. I never knew her. What right do I have to send her a message? You have every right, Lily said firmly. You're part of our family. You should say something. So Maya did, her words simple but profound. Thank you for the family you left behind. I promise to love them with everything I have. They released the balloons together, watching them drift up into the darkening sky. And as they stood there, Ethan with an arm around each of them, he felt something shift and settle. This was his family now, past and present woven together, grief and joy coexisting, love expanding to hold everything they'd lost and everything they'd found. That night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan and Maya sat on the back porch in comfortable silence. The day had been emotionally exhausting, but somehow cathartic, a turning point they'd both needed. Thank you, Ethan said quietly, for today, for understanding how important it was to remember her. She gave me you and Lily, Maya said simply. How could I not honor that? Do you ever worry that you're living in her shadow, that you'll always be compared to her? Maya was quiet for a moment, considering. Sometimes. But then I remember that I'm not trying to be Sarah. I'm trying to be Maya, the best version of myself, the person you and Lily need me to be right now. And that's enough. It's more than enough. Ethan pulled her close. I don't compare you to her, you know. You're completely different people, and I love you for who you are, not as a replacement for who I lost. I know. I think I've always known that deep down, but it helps to hear it. They sat together until the mosquitoes drove them inside, and as Ethan locked up for the night, he realized something important. He was happy, not the complicated, guilty happiness he'd felt in the early days with Maya, but simple, uncomplicated joy. He had a daughter who was thriving, a partner who loved them both, a home filled with laughter and life. The next morning, Lily came bounding into their bedroom at dawn. She still sometimes forgot that Maya slept there now, and jumped on the bed. "It's my birthday in 3 weeks," she announced, as if they could have forgotten. "And I know exactly what I want." "Let me guess," Ethan groaned, pulling a pillow over his head. "A pony?" "No, Dad, be serious." Lily bounced impatiently. "I want a party, a big one with all my friends, and I want Maya to help plan it because she's really good at parties." Maya laughed, reaching over to ruffle Lily's hair. "I'm good at parties, am I?" "The best. Remember Emma's birthday when you made that treasure hunt that went all over town? Everyone said it was the coolest thing ever." Lily flopped down between them. "So will you? Will you help me plan the best birthday party ever?" "Of course I will, sweetheart. We'll make it amazing." And they did. Over the next 3 weeks, Maya and Lily plotted and planned, turning the backyard into a carnival complete with games and prizes and a cotton candy machine Maya rented from a party supply company in Riverside. Ethan built a dunking booth, and they convinced the fire chief to bring a truck for the kids to explore. The party was chaos in the best way. 27, 7, and 8-year-olds running wild, parents chatting on the sidelines, Lily in the center of it all, absolutely glowing with happiness. Maya was everywhere at once, coordinating games and serving cake and making sure everyone felt included. Watching her, Ethan felt his chest tighten with emotion. This was what he'd wanted without knowing it. Someone who loved Lily enough to make her birthday party a priority, who'd spend weeks planning and preparing just to see her smile. Someone who fit seamlessly into their life, filling gaps he hadn't even realized were there. As the party wound down and exhausted children were collected by their parents, Carol Henderson pulled Ethan aside. "I owe you an apology," she said, her expression sheepish. "I was wrong about Maya, about all of this. Look at Lily. She's happier than I've seen her in years. And that's because of what you two have built together." "Thank you for saying that. I let my own fears and judgments get in the way of seeing what was right in front of me. Maya is good for you both. She's not trying to replace Sarah. She's just loving you and Lily for who you are now. That's special." After everyone had left and they'd cleaned up the worst of the mess, the three of them collapsed on the porch, tired but content. Lily was still wearing her birthday crown, her face sticky with cotton candy. "Best birthday ever," she declared. "Thank you, Maya, for everything." "You're welcome, sweet girl. Happy birthday." Lily yawned hugely, then looked up at them with drowsy contentment. "We're a real family now, aren't we? Like, officially?" Ethan and Maya exchanged glances. "What makes you say that?" Maya asked gently. "Because we do everything together, and we love each other. And even when we fight, we figure it out." Lily's eyes were already drifting closed. "That's what families do, right? They stick together no matter what." "That's exactly what families do," Ethan agreed, his voice rough with emotion. He carried Lily to bed a few minutes later, and when he came back, he found Maya exactly where he'd left her, staring up at the stars with tears streaming down her face. "Happy tears?" he asked, sitting beside her. "The happiest." She turned to him, her smile radiant despite the tears. "I have a family, Ethan, a real family. I never thought I'd have this. You have us. For as long as you want us." "Forever," Maya said firmly. "I want you forever." And sitting there on the porch in the gathering darkness, Ethan realized he wanted that too. Part 5. Forever turned out to be closer than either of them expected. It was a crisp October morning, 6 months after Maya had moved in, when Ethan woke with absolute clarity about what he wanted to do. He'd been thinking about it for weeks, carrying the idea around like a secret he wasn't quite ready to share. But watching Maya sleep beside him, her hair spread across the pillow, and her face peaceful in the early morning light, he knew he was ready. He wanted to marry her. The realization didn't come with fanfare or dramatic music. It was quiet and certain, like finally solving a puzzle he'd been working on for months. Maya was his partner, his best friend, the person who made every day better just by being in it. She'd woven herself so completely into the fabric of their lives that Ethan couldn't imagine a future without her. And more importantly, he didn't want to. He slipped out of bed carefully, not wanting to wake her, and made his way to the workshop. In the back of his tool cabinet, hidden behind boxes of screws and sandpaper, was a small wooden box he'd been working on in stolen moments over the past month. He pulled it out now, running his fingers over the smooth cherry wood, checking the hidden compartment he'd designed into the lid. Inside the compartment, when he was ready, would go Sarah's engagement ring. He'd thought long and hard about whether to use it, whether it would be appropriate or meaningful, or just plain wrong. But the more he considered it, the more right it felt. Sarah would have wanted her ring to continue being a symbol of love and commitment. And there was something poetic about it. Sarah's blessing, literally and metaphorically, on this new chapter. He'd need to have it resized for Maya's smaller finger, maybe add a different stone alongside the diamond to make it uniquely hers while honoring its history. But first, he needed to ask Lily. He found his daughter that afternoon in her room, working on an art project that involved an alarming amount of glitter. "Hey, Bug, can we talk for a minute?" Lily looked up, immediately reading his serious tone. "Am I in trouble?" "No, nothing like that. I actually wanted to ask your opinion about something important." He sat on her bed, suddenly nervous. "How would you feel if I asked Maya to marry me?" Lily's eyes went wide. "Really? You want to marry her?" "I do. But this affects you too, so I wanted to make sure you were okay with it first." For a moment, Lily just stared at him. Then she launched herself at him with such force that they both nearly toppled over. "Yes, yes, yes, yes! Can I help plan the wedding? Can I be in it? Can I wear a fancy dress?" Ethan laughed, relieved and delighted by her enthusiasm. "Slow down. I haven't even asked her yet. She might say no." "She's not going to say no, Dad. She loves you." Lily pulled back, her expression turning thoughtful. "Are you scared?" "Terrified," he admitted. "What if I mess it up? What if she's not ready?" "Then you wait until she is ready. But I don't think you have to wait. I think she's been ready for a long time." Lily paused, then asked quietly, "Will she be my stepmom if you get married?" "If she says yes, then yes, she would be. Is that okay with you?" "More than okay. It's perfect." Lily grinned. "Can I tell Emma?" "Not yet. It's a secret until I actually propose. Can you keep it?" "I'm really good at secrets," Lily insisted, though her track record suggested otherwise. "When are you going to ask her?" "I'm not sure yet. I want it to be special, but not over the top. Something that feels like us." Over the next few weeks, Ethan planned. He had Sarah's ring resized and added a small sapphire beside the diamond, Maya's birthstone creating a bridge between past and present. He arranged for Lily to spend the night at Emma's house, despite Carol's knowing smile when he made the request, and he planned a simple evening that he hoped would be perfect. The night arrived with December's early darkness and a light snow that made Willow Creek look like a postcard. Ethan had spent the afternoon preparing, cooking Maya's favorite meal, and setting the table with candles. The ring box sat in his pocket, a constant weight that made his heart race every time he thought about it. Maya arrived home from the library at 6, shaking snow from her hair and calling out a greeting. She stopped in the doorway to the dining room, taking in the candlelight and flowers, and Ethan standing there in the good shirt she'd given him for his birthday. "What's all this?" she asked, her eyes soft with surprise. "Dinner. Just us. Lily's at Emma's for the night." "You cooked." She came closer, examining the table. "Ethan, this is beautiful. What's the occasion?" "Do I need an occasion to romance my girlfriend?" Maya laughed, standing on her toes to kiss him. "I suppose not. Give me 5 minutes to change?" While she was upstairs, Ethan tried to calm his racing heart. He'd planned what to say, rehearsed it a dozen times in the workshop. But now that the moment was approaching, all his carefully prepared words scattered like leaves in the wind. They ate slowly, talking about their days and Lily's upcoming school play and the new book order Maya had placed for the library. Normal conversation, comfortable and easy, the kind they'd been having for years. But underneath it, Ethan felt the weight of what was coming, the question that would change everything. After dinner, he led Maya to the living room, where he'd built a fire in the fireplace. They settled on the couch, and Maya curled into his side with a contented sigh. "This was perfect," she said. "Thank you." "It's not over yet." Ethan took a deep breath, his hand finding the ring box in his pocket. "Maya, there's something I want to talk to you about." She pulled back to look at him, her expression curious. "That sounds serious." "It is. But good serious, I hope." He stood, pulling her up with him, and then, before he could overthink it, dropped to one knee. Maya's hands flew to her mouth, her eyes going wide with shock. "Maya Bennett," Ethan began, his voice rough with emotion. "2 years ago, you moved in next door and turned my whole world upside down. You brought light and laughter and love into a house that had been dark for too long. You loved my daughter like she was your own, not because you had to, but because you wanted to. You chose us, every single day, even when it was hard." Tears were streaming down Maya's face now, and Ethan had to pause to clear his own throat. "I never thought I'd find this again. This kind of love, this kind of partnership. And I'm not going to lie and say it hasn't been complicated, because it has. Loving you while still honoring Sarah's memory, blending our lives together, navigating all the messy realities of building a family from broken pieces. But you've made it all feel possible. You've made me believe in second chances." He opened the ring box, watching Maya's expression as she recognized Sarah's diamond alongside the new sapphire. "This was Sarah's ring, but I've had it modified to be uniquely yours, to represent both the past we honor and the future we're building. If you'll have it, if you'll have me, I want to spend the rest of my life loving you. I want to make this official, not just for us, but for Lily too. I want you to be my wife, my partner, my family, in every way that matters." He paused, suddenly realizing he'd forgotten the actual question in his rambling speech. "Maya Bennett, will you marry me?" For a long moment, Maya just stared at him, tears streaming down her face. Then she laughed, a joyful, incredulous sound, and dropped to her knees in front of him. "Yes," she said, her voice breaking. "Yes, 1,000 times, yes." Ethan slid the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, and then they were kissing and crying and laughing all at once. When they finally pulled apart, Maya held up her hand, examining the ring in the firelight. "It's perfect," she whispered. "The sapphire. That was so thoughtful, honoring Sarah while making it mine. I wanted you to feel like it was truly yours, but I also wanted you to know that she's part of this too, in a way. Her love for me and Lily made me the person you fell for. There's a continuity there, a thread connecting everything. I love that." Maya touched the ring gently. "And I love you so much. I can't believe we're really doing this. Are you sure? We can have a long engagement if you want. Take our time." "I'm sure. I've been sure about you since that kiss at the festival, maybe even before that. This just makes it official." They spent the rest of the evening on the couch, making plans and dreaming about the future. They'd have a small wedding, they decided, just family and close friends. Maybe in the spring, in the backyard where they'd spent so many evenings together. Lily would be the flower girl, of course, and they'd write their own vows. "Should we tell Lily tonight?" Maya asked. "Or wait until morning?" Ethan checked his watch. "It's only 8:30. She's probably still awake. Want to call her?" They video called Emma's house, and Lily's face appeared on the screen, bouncing with barely contained excitement. "Did you do it? Did you ask her?" she demanded before they could even say hello. "Were you in on this?" Maya asked, delighted. "Dad asked my permission first. I said yes, obviously." Lily peered at the screen. "Did she say yes? Are you getting married?" "She said yes," Ethan confirmed. "We're getting married." Lily's scream of joy was so loud that Carol appeared in the background laughing. "I take it the proposal went well?" "We're getting married," Lily announced to anyone who could hear. "Maya's going to be my stepmom." They talked for a few more minutes, Lily asking a million questions about the wedding and the dress, and whether she could invite her entire class. Finally, Carol intervened, reminding Lily it was bedtime and that she'd see them in the morning. After they hung up, Maya turned to Ethan with a soft smile. "Stepmom. That's what she called me. Is that okay? We never really settled on a title." "It's more than okay. It's perfect." Maya's eyes filled with tears again. "I'm going to be someone's mom. Not the mom who gave birth to her or raised her from infancy, but a mom nonetheless. That's incredible. You've been her mom in all the ways that matter for months now. This just makes it official." The next few months passed in a blur of wedding planning and normal life beautifully intertwined. They kept the ceremony small and intimate, just 40 guests in the backyard that Ethan had transformed with string lights and flowers. Maya wore a simple cream dress, and Lily wore pale blue, carrying a basket of rose petals she scattered with great solemnity. Ethan had worried about writing his vows, but when the moment came, the words flowed easily. "Maya, you taught me that love doesn't have to be finite, that my heart could hold space for what I lost and what I found, and that one didn't diminish the other. You loved me when I was broken, and you loved my daughter like she was yours from the start. You brought joy back into our lives, and for that, I will be forever grateful. I promise to love you fiercely and tenderly, to be your partner in all things, to choose you every day for the rest of our lives. Maya's vows were equally simple and profound, her voice steady despite her tears. Ethan, when I moved to Willow Creek, I was lost and lonely and looking for a fresh start. I found so much more than that. I found a home, a family, and a love I didn't know I was missing. You and Lily gave me purpose and belonging. You let me be part of your story, and you became part of mine. I promise to love both of you with everything I have, to honor the past while building our future, and to be the partner and mother you both deserve. When the officiant pronounced them married, Lily cheered louder than anyone, jumping up and down with excitement. And when Ethan kissed his new wife, he felt something settle and complete inside him, not the closing of an old chapter, but the full opening of a new one. At the reception, Patricia Bennett surprised everyone by giving a toast that was actually warm and genuine. "I'll admit I had my doubts about this union," she began, to nervous laughter, "but I was wrong. Watching my daughter with Ethan and Lily, seeing the family they've built together, I understand now what I couldn't see before. Love isn't about credentials or perfect circumstances. It's about choosing each other, day after day, through all of life's complications. Maya, Ethan, Lily, you three have taught me that family comes in many forms, and all of them are valid. I'm proud of you, Maya, and I'm grateful you found people who love you as much as you deserve." Later, as they danced under the stars, Maya whispered, "Did my mother just admit she was wrong about something?" "Miracles happen," Ethan murmured, pulling her closer. "Apparently they do. 3 years ago, if someone had told me I'd be married to a widowed furniture maker in small-town Virginia, raising his daughter and completely happy about it, I would have laughed. But here we are." "Here we are," Ethan echoed. "Are you happy? Truly? Deliriously? Impossibly? Completely?" She looked up at him, her eyes shining. "I have everything I ever wanted, even though it looks nothing like I imagined. That's the beautiful part, I think. Sometimes the best things are the ones we never knew to hope for." As the evening wore on and guests began to leave, Lily came to find them, her flower crown askew and her dress grass-stained from playing with the other children. "Can I give you your present now?" she asked. "You got us a present?" Maya asked, surprised. "Sweetheart, you didn't have to do that. I made it. Come on." She led them inside to the living room where a wrapped frame sat on the coffee table. Ethan unwrapped it carefully, and his breath caught when he saw what was inside. It was a drawing, carefully colored and labeled in Lily's neat printing. 3 stick figures stood in front of a house, a tall one labeled Dad, a shorter one with long hair labeled Maya, and a small one with pigtails labeled Me. Above them, Lily had written in rainbow letters, "My family." But it was the detail that made Ethan's eyes burn with tears. In the corner of the drawing, sketched in lighter pencil, was a 4th figure, a woman with curly hair, smiling down at the other 3. Underneath, in smaller letters, Lily had written Mom, watching over us. "I wanted to include her," Lily explained quietly, "because she's still part of our family too, even though she's not here anymore. Is that okay?" Maya knelt down, pulling Lily into a tight embrace. "It's more than okay, sweet girl. It's perfect. Your mom will always be part of this family." "And now you are too," Lily said, pulling back to look at Maya seriously. "You're officially my stepmom now, which means I get to call you Mom if I want to. Is that okay?" Maya's face crumpled, and she nodded, unable to speak. Lily seemed to understand, wrapping her arms around Maya's neck and whispering, "I love you, Mom." Ethan had to turn away, overwhelmed by the beauty of the moment. His daughter, brave enough to love again after loss. His wife, generous enough to honor the mother who came before her. His late wife, whose love had been strong enough to create this child who could hold space for both her mothers without conflict. Later that night, after the guests had gone and Lily was asleep, Ethan and Maya stood on the porch one last time before heading to bed. It was the same porch where they'd shared their first real conversation, where they'd admitted their feelings, where they'd navigated every milestone of their relationship. "No regrets?" Ethan asked, pulling Maya close. Not a single one. She rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Though I have to say, when I entered that kissing contest, I didn't expect it to lead to marriage. That was quite a kiss. It was, wasn't it? Maya smiled. 6 minutes and 43 seconds that changed everything. Best 6 minutes of my life. Well, second best. Today might edge it out. They stood in comfortable silence, watching fireflies dance across the yard. Somewhere in the house, their daughter slept, dreaming whatever dreams 8-year-olds have. Tomorrow they'd wake up as a married couple, as an official family, as 3 people who'd chosen to love each other despite all the reasons it might have been easier not to. But standing there with Maya in his arms, Ethan couldn't imagine any other choice. Love wasn't about easy. It was about showing up day after day and choosing each other through the messy, complicated, beautiful reality of life. You know what's funny? Maya said softly. I spent so much of my life waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect person, the perfect circumstances. And it turned out that perfect was just this: 2 imperfect people building something real together, plus one amazing kid who happened to come with the package. The best package deal ever, Ethan agreed. Do you think Sarah would approve of all this? Ethan thought about it, really thought about it. Thought about Sarah's fierce love for life, her insistence that he keep living after she was gone, her final request that he not let grief make him small. Thought about the woman who'd loved him enough to set him free to love again. I think she'd be proud of both of us, he said finally. Proud that we found each other. Proud that Lily has another person to love her. Proud that we honored her memory while still moving forward. I hope so, Maya whispered. I hope wherever she is, she knows how much I love the family she created, how grateful I am that she left behind people worth loving. They went inside eventually, checking on Lily one last time before retiring to their room. In the doorway, Ethan paused to look at the drawing Lily had given them, already hung on the wall in a place of honor. 4 people, 2 mothers, 1 family, love enough to encompass loss and hope, grief and joy, endings and new beginnings. Maya came up behind him, wrapping her arms around his waist and resting her chin on his shoulder. We did it, she said. We built something beautiful out of broken pieces. We did, Ethan agreed. And we're going to keep building it, one day at a time. Because that was the secret, he realized. Love wasn't a destination you reached and then stopped. It was a choice you made every morning, a commitment you renewed with every small act of kindness and patience and understanding. It was messy and complicated and sometimes heartbreaking, but it was also the most worthwhile thing a person could do. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, the person meant for your next chapter had been living right next door all along, waiting for you to be brave enough to open your heart one more time. In the end, it wasn't just about the kiss that started it all, though that had certainly been memorable. It was about every moment after, the small kindnesses, the daily choices, the willingness to love again, even when loving meant risking loss. It was about Lily's courage in opening her heart to a new mother without forgetting the first. It was about Maya's patience in waiting for them to be ready, and her grace in stepping into a family that was already formed. And it was about Ethan learning that his capacity to love hadn't died with Sarah. It had just been waiting, dormant but not gone, for the right person to bring it back to life. As he followed Maya to bed, Ethan Carter felt something he hadn't felt in years: complete and uncomplicated peace. The past would always be part of him. Sarah would always have a place in his heart. But the future was bright and full of possibility, built on the foundation of a love that had started with a ridiculous dare at a small-town festival and grown into something neither of them could have predicted. Sometimes the best stories were the ones you never saw coming. Sometimes the greatest love was the one you found when you'd stopped looking for it. And sometimes a 6-minute kiss could change absolutely everything. Their family was complete now, not because all the pieces fit perfectly, but because they'd chosen to make space for each other despite the imperfections. And in that choice, in that daily commitment to love through the complications, they'd found something precious and rare. They'd found home.